Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Uzumaki clan destroys Konoha chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by champblaze and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. The White Storm of the Uzumaki clan. A tall and lone figure travels along the road leading to the gates of Konoha. Their form dressed in a black dress uniform jacket with the upper body featuring a hood and a beak tip, which features blue lining along the torso with the lower half of the coat forming two tails. Black cargo pants with white from pocket to pocket having chain suspenders to their mid-thigh. A black and white trim high-collar vest with a faceless mask on their face with blacked-out eye sockets and a thin smile. It's been so long, the figure thought. They see a group of people leaving the gate as they approach. One, a man with gravity-defying silver hair with his hitai covering his left eye and dressed on standard jonin attire. The second was a beautiful redhead in a high ponytail with violet eyes and dressed in jonin attire but a sword across her lower back. This is our first mission, outside the village, be on guard, she says. The third was a 16-year-old pink-hair girl with green eyes, dressed in a red top with black gloves, low-heel, knee-high boots, black shorts underneath a short pink apron skirt and elbow protectors. The fourth was a boy with black hair and eyes dressed in white cargos, a high collar and long-sleeve blue shirt with a fan on the back. HN, the boy says. The fifth was an older man dressed in tan pants to his shins, a gray sleeveless shirt, and a conical hat on his head. The last were a pair of twins, one blonde with blue eyes and the other red with violet eyes and thin whiskers on their cheeks. Both are dressed in long-sleeve zip-up jumpsuits to their thighs, but one orange and black, the other blue and black with white stockings and black boots for both. The group passed the figure, but the redhead and their eyes met as they pass, causing the redhead to look back in confusion. Something wrong, Kushina-sama, the other jonin asks. Kushina glances back to the retreating figure. It's nothing, Kakashi, she replies, as they continue on. The figure glances back. Well, you haven't changed at all, they thought. The figure continues through the village, and it hadn't changed in their 10-year absence. However, gone were the hateful glares and daily beatings of old. The villagers give the figure barely a glance as they arrived at the Hokage Tower. How can I help you, the receptionist asks. I am here to see Lord Hokage on a sensitive matter, the figure says, revealing his gender. The receptionist looks over the tall man and presses a button. Hokage-sama, someone to see you, she relays. Send them in, a voice shouts. The man steps in with his hood still up as his gaze meets the yondaime himself, dressed in jonin attire and a white coat and red flames with yondaime emblazed down the back. Minato leans forward with a serious look on his face. Who are you, he says, but the man remains quiet. Minato's eyes narrow as two Anbu drop down with the cat mask Anbu having her sword at his throat. Lord Hokage asks you a question, she hisses. How harsh, Nico. As for my identity, I am the taint on his legacy, the man says, pointing his gloved hand. Minato froze and his eyes slowly widen. It can't be, he whispers. The man removes his hood to reveal short and messy black hair with long bangs, framing his face but one white, and his mask to reveal a strong chin and defined cheekbones, purple eyes and a straight slender nose, with a scar running under his left eye towards his ear. Mitsuomi? Minato blurts. Mitsuomi secures his mask to his belt. So you do remember me even after 10 years, he coldly says. Minato slightly flinches at Mitsuomi's cold tone. Sanai, he starts, but Mitsuomi raises his gloved hand. Do not call me that, Mitsuomi curtly said. Show some respect to Hokage-sama, the other Anbu with a hawk mask shot. Mitsuomi shoots a glare at Hawk as the tension slowly builds, but Minato raises his hand. Enough. Mitsuomi, why have you returned, he asks. Mitsuomi turns back to Minato. I wish to formally join the village, he replies. Minato stares at Mitsuomi with a soft look. Knowing who trained you from Kushina, you're more than likely high chunin or tokubetsu jonin, he says. A fair assessment, but I will settle for genin not to show favoritism, Mitsuomi comments, and Minato slowly nods but has a better idea, tossing him a black hitai. You won't have to go that far, you can work as a ronin for the time being. You can also work with the newly minted genin to test them. Also, since you've returned, you can stay in the compound if you like, Minato says. Mitsuomi bows slightly but shakes his head. I'll decline staying there, he says, and simply vanishes with a static shunshin. Minato's shoulders slump after Mitsuomi vanishes. I wonder how Kushina and girls will react to his return, he thought. Hokage-sama, is that really Mitsuomi, Nico asks. Minato sighs deeply with a nod. He left 10 years ago with Kushina's students Shirsho Kiryu, but she vehemently wouldn't tell me where, he explains. Many people were actually happy when he left, the things they called him, and did, Nico muses, returning to her post. Minato slowly returns to his work with a ruefully look. I hope someday you'll forgive this foolish man, he thought. A week later, Mitsuomi found himself an apartment near the red light district. Much to Minato's protest, but the young man's answer was it was no longer his home. Minato hadn't informed the village or the council of his return, but the council would eventually find out. The bright spot of the past week was reconnecting with the Sandaime Hokage and Mikoto Uchiha, her being spared with her son Sasuke and clanswoman Izumi from the massacre committed by Itachi. Mikoto was like a second mother to him, and caught him up on his own mother and sisters. Hiruzen challenged him to several shogi matches and privately tested his skills, also brushing him up on clan and political laws if, and when his status is revealed. Mitsuomi today found himself on Minato's stone head with a cigarette burning in his mouth, when Nico appears behind him. Hokage-sama requests your presence, Nico relays, and Mitsuomi turns with a stream of smoke. Right, Mitsuomi says, spitting out his cigarette, and the pair shunch into the office. Minato sits at his desk as Nico and Mitsuomi arrive. Thank you for coming, he says, and slips into Hokage mode. Team 7 has requested aid on a C-rank mission which is now A-rank but borderline S-rank. I would like you to assist them but not to interfere with their main mission, Minato says. Orders received, Mitsuomi curtly said, and slowly fades away. So the wayward son has returned, a voice comments. Minato sees his sensei stepping through the window. It's been a week and that's the length of a conversation between us, he says. The kid left on bad terms with you and the village. His mother and sisters on the other hand. Jiraiya muses and Minato nods. He still believes I see him as a reminder of that incident coupled with having the soul of the Kyuubi inside him as well, Minato says. The village praises his sisters while he is scorned, Minato adds, and Jiraiya ruefully nods. Wave Country. Team 7 find themselves in a desperate situation, first encountering the Demon Brothers, and once reaching Wave dealing with Zabuza Momochi, Aoi Rokusho, and worst Ryaku Kurasuki with his gang. Kushina suffers a nasty shock from the Kiba blades, while Kakashi suffers chakra exhaustion but manages to kill Aoi and recover the Raijin sword of the Nidaime Hokage. The only bright spot to some was Sasuke awakening his Sharingan with Sakura fawning over him, much to the disgust of the Namikaze twins and matriarch. Kushina was sitting at the table with her daughters and the rest of the team. Tsunami was sitting with them as was her father, and her daughter Inari was glowering them. Mom, what will we do about Zabuza and Kurasuki? Naruko asks, and her twin Mito nods. Sasuke scoffs with a smirk. Now that I have my Sharingan they stand no chance, he sneers, and Sakura swoons. The Namikaze trio glare at Sasuke, but suddenly there was a loud knock on the door. Tsunami rises from her chair and heads for the door but quickly came back with a tall but masked man. Who are you? Kushina asks, defensively. The man holds up his Hittite. Lord Hokage sent me, he says, his voice distorted. Sasuke scoffs once again and leers at the man. Why when I have my Sharingan, he thought. Can you remove your mask to alleviate our hosts? Kushina comments, ignoring the leering Sasuke. Please don't faint, the man says, removing his mask. The twins in Kushina's eyes narrow but slowly widen in shock. Sochi? Nia and I? Mitsu and I? All three shout. Mitsuomi rubs his head with a soft look. Hello, Mother Naruto, he says. Kushina immediately engulfs her son in a hug, as did Mito, but Naruko slaps him in the face but then hugs him. That's for leaving Mitsu and I, she chides. Mitsuomi rubs his cheek with a cough. Sorry, Nara, he says. When did you get back, Sochi? Kushina says. Sasuke silently scoffs with a sneer on his face. Who cares, he looks weak, he whispers. Mitsuomi looks over the cocky Uchiha, and could see the arrogance but snorts. I can see why Itachi let you live, he shot. Don't talk about Sasuke-kun like that. Sakura screeches but Mitsuomi ignores her. I got back just over a week ago, we actually passed each other at the gate, Mitsuomi says. Sakura charges Mitsuomi but the purple eye merc grabs her fist without looking at him. Don't think for a second you can beat me, he coldly says, pushing her back. Sakura, Sasuke, go upstairs and check on Kakashi, Kushina orders. Sasuke glares at Kushina and Mitsuomi but skulks upstairs with his pet in tow. Kushina turns back to her son but a ruffles catches her attention. Sochi, your shirt, she asks. Mitsuomi blinks and pops his forehead as he unbuttons his vest. From it pops a small snow tiger with blue-gray eyes. I'm sorry about that, Kelly, Mitsuomi says and rubs her head. Mito and Naruko look on with goggly eyes as the tiger looks up. Who are they, she asks. My mother Kushina Namikaze and my sisters Naruko and Mito, Mitsuomi replies, pulling her out his vest. Mitsuomi places Kali on his lap as he sits in a chair. She can talk, Mitsu and I, Naruko asks, and Mitsuomi nods, pointing to his stomach. Has Kyuubi tried to harm you? Kushina asks, and Mitsuomi shakes his head. We've come to a working relationship, Mitsuomi replies. Suddenly a piece of paper slips under the door, and by itself flies towards Mitsuomi, but the purple eye Uzumaki caught it. Seems they've arrived, excellent, Mitsuomi says and places Kali on the floor. Who's Sochi? Kushina asks. People important to me, Mitsuomi says softly as he heads for the door. Kushina and the twins follow him outside into the beach as the two figures stood, dressed in gray travel cloaks. One has a feather headdress with a mask was on their face. Turning slightly, the mask has only one eye blacked out and reveals an amber eye with blue eyeshadow. He isn't alone, the second says. On their face is a strange mask of white with pink compound insect eyes on it. Mitsuomi releases the paper, and it flies back to the first figure, and shockingly assimilates with their cloak. The figures remove their masks and reveals a beautiful young woman with blue hair, and another young woman with shoulder-length white hair, in a short ponytail with distinctly pink eyes. I thought we were to meet in Konoha, the first asks. Sorry, but Lord Hokage asked me to assist on their mission, Mitsuomi replies and turns to his family. Mother, this is Conan and Kuratsuchi, my partners, he adds. Conan removes her headdress with a bow. It's a pleasure, Kushina-sama. Mitsuomi has told us a great deal about you and his sisters, she states. A pleasure to meet you as well, Kuratsuchi states, bowing as well. The Namikaze trio bow in turn. It's a pleasure as well, you said, partners, Kushina questions. Hi, we are bounty hunters, Conan says and glances to Mitsuomi. And a couple, she adds. The twins gawk but Kushina's eyes start to sparkle. Grandchildren, she shouts, and Mitsuomi face palms. Kushina immediately grabs Conan and Kuratsuchi in a huge hugs as the blue-hair beauty blushes. We haven't reached that step, I'm still a virgin, Conan says softly. Same here, Kuratsuchi states. Kushina releases Conan and glances to her son but gives a thumbs up. Aniki made sure he replies. What about Koko? Naruko comments, slyly. Mitsuomi freezes and a rain cloud forms over his head, while in Konoha a purple-haired Tokubetsu Jonin sneezes and accidentally jams a kunai in a prisoner. Will the two of you be joining Konoha when we return? Kushina asks, changing the subject. Conan slowly nods. Hi, I'll take the same position as Mitsuomi, she replies and glances his way. I'll decide later, Kuratsuchi says. I'm a Ronin per Lord Hokage's wishes, Mitsuomi adds, but sees the tired looks on his sisters. Mother, why don't you all turn in for the night? We can keep watch tonight, Mitsuomi suggests. As if on cue, Naruko yawns loudly and Mito giggles. Okay, Sochi, but when we return home you're gonna tell us about your travels, Kushina states, and kisses his temple. Mitsuomi slowly nods as his sisters hug him once again. Callie is sleeping with us, Naruko calls out, and Menma waves. Missed you, Mitsuomi whispers, kissing her forehead and then kissing Kuratsuchi. Missed you too, and your mother is like you said, Conan replies, and Mitsuomi snorts. Will you tell her everything? Kuratsuchi adds. Mitsuomi's eyes flicker as Conan hugs him and strokes his back. She knows about that one thing because of Aunt Mikoto, but the other ties into why Aniki isn't with us, he whispers. Naruko comes downstairs with a small yawn with Mito in tow and Callie in her arms. Their mother was making breakfast with Tsunami. Even Kakashi was up but still had crutches. Kushina places several plates on the table. Morning, girls, she says. Morning, Mom. Where's Mitsu and I? Naruko asks. Conan comes down next in an oversized shirt and shorts with Kuratsuchi in tow, wearing the same. He's still sleeping. He watched the house all night despite my protest, Conan replies. All night, Mito asks, and Conan nods, taking a seat. Sasuke and Sakura came down soon and everyone starts eating, with Inari sulking as well. Eventually everyone migrate from the table after eating, leaving Kushina, Kuratsuchi and Conan. The Amber Eye Kunoichi knows Kushina as Mitsuomi's mother but also as an S-class Kunoichi second to Tsunade Senju, and the latter trained her. So how did you and Sochi meet? Kushina asks the pair. I was on the run from pretty shady people, Mitsuomi, and Conan saved me, Kuratsuchi says. Conan sips her juice with a rueful look. I'm from the land of water and a survivor of the bloodline purges, Mitsuomi, and Aniki were traveling when they saved me from being you. No, she whispers and slowly freezes her cup. I possess the Hayatan and my Shiki, she adds. Kushina places her hand on Conan's shoulder. It's alright, she soothes. Meanwhile, a pair of twins and a tiger seek out their brother, finding him face down in a bed. Despite the covers, both notice their brother's broad shoulders and tall form as light snores echo. Naruko turns to her twin with a grin. Shall we wake him like we used to, she says, and Mito holds up a finger coated in chakra, causing the blonde's grin to widen. Downstairs, Kushina, Kuratsuchi and Conan were talking, when a girlish yelp echoes from upstairs and the redhead starts laughing. It seems Naruko and Mito have reacquainted themselves with their big brother, Kushina says, giggling, and the pair doing the same. Mitsuomi slowly climbs back in bed as his sisters laugh. How mean, you know I'm sensitive there, he whines. Naruko and Mito giggle. Sorry, Mitsu and I, Naruko says. Mitsuomi looks over his sisters and softly smiles. You've grown, and not just physically, he says. You've changed too, Nianai, Mito says, pointing to his scar. Mitsuomi softly touches his cheek. Yeah, I tangled with a Jashinist zealot named Kyohei Masaki, he replies. How's your training, Mitsuomi adds. Naruko smirks as Mito places Callie in her lap and the tiger's purrs. We've done a lot. Mom taught us tree and water walking, holding the leaf kenjutsu and dispelling genjutsu. Mito even unlocked Mom's chakra chains. Oh, my elemental affinity is wind and lightning. Mito got water and a minor wind, Naruko explains. That's amazing. Mine is lightning, fire and water, but my lightning is, well, I'll show you, Mitsuomi says. He holds up his right index and thumb a few inches apart, but suddenly lightning forms between the fingers with a buzz, causing Naruko and Mito to gasp in awe. My affinity is pretty high, so I can generate lightning, Mitsuomi says. The door opens as Conan and Kuratsuchi step in. Mito-chan, Naruko-chan, your mother wants you downstairs for a team briefing, Conan says. The twins nod as Mitsuomi moves to the edge of the bed. I'll be down too, but I need to change my bandages, he says, and both nod. Conan closes the door as Mitsuomi removes his shirt, revealing an ugly scar on his back and on his right side above his hip. Any word from Yujito? Mitsuomi asks, ruffling Callie's fur. Kuratsuchi grabs a box from Conan's pack and as the latter climbs in bed behind him. She's in Tanzakugai and will meet us in Konoha when we return, Conan says, and places her hand on the bandages. Are you sure this is wise? You have no guarantee the Hokage will accept us, Conan, for sure, but as Kuratsuchi adds. The bandages loosen and fall to the floor to reveal a severe burn of an acidic nature on his left arm and side. Then we'll leave. Mother will understand. I love all three of you and we Uzumaki don't abandon family, Mitsuomi says. Conan opens the box of new bandages with a soft smile. I love you too, just as them, but your fantasy of a menage a trois will only happen when a ring is on my finger, she says. Mitsuomi slowly nods with a smile as Conan applies some cream. Still stiff, she asks, as he moves his arm and fingers. A little discomfort, but once we get back I'll ask Granny Tsunade to look at it, and get you some mednin training, Mitsuomi says. Conan wraps her arms around his neck. Thanks, she says, as Kuratsuchi shakes her head. Team 7 were gathered at the table as Mitsuomi came down with Conan and Kuratsuchi. Kakashi's eye widens slightly as Mitsuomi sits down. Been a while, Kakashi, he says. Kushina clears her throat. We have about a day to a week before Zabuza is ready to fight, but Raiga and his gang could attack us any time. For now we'll guard Tazuna in groups of 3 and train as we do Sochi. I'd like you to guard his family, she explains. Sure, but I've had some experience with Raiga. We fought in the land of rivers, Mitsuomi said. Sasuke scoffs with his arms folded and Mitsuomi shifts to a blank look. Something to say, oh mighty Uchiha, he says. Naruko snorts as Sasuke glares. Why should some no-name face Kurasuke, he says. My son is not some no-name. If Minato sent him alone, that should prove his skill. Kushina interjects and glances back to Mitsuomi. Alright, I'll leave Raiga to you, Conan and Kuratsuchi. Can you guard Tazuna's family, she adds, and both nod. Hi, and I've already taken steps, Conan replies. Alright, today Naruko, Mito, and I will watch Tazuna. Kakashi, I want you to train Sasuke and Sakura and teach them at least one offensive and defensive jutsu, Kushina states, and Kakashi nods. It's useless, you're all gonna die, a voice said. Inari stood in the doorway with a glare on her face. Nini-san won't die, Kali growls, hopping from Mitsuomi's lap. Inari flinches as Kali growls, but Mitsuomi snatches up the little tiger. Why do you think it's useless? You have 2 S-class shinobi, 3 A-class, and 4 highly trained genin. Gato may have power, but in the end he is coward who will fold at the first sign of trouble, he explains. That doesn't matter, you don't know our suffering. I bet none of you have suffered, especially you with that stupid smile, Inari shouts. Mitsuomi frowns as he could feel his mother and sisters staring. Actually, I do. You see, I am product of a horrible time for my mother. Many in our village saw me as a taint, or an abomination not fit to breathe their air. I was beaten and cursed by everyone who saw me, save a few, but I didn't let that drag me down, and I can smile like this because I didn't, and I've gained many precious things, he explains. Mitsuomi glances back with a soft smile. Sorry for bringing down the atmosphere. I'm going to take a walk. I'll be back soon, he says, and heads for door. Inari stood quietly as Naruko and Mito were glaring at her. That's not true, is it? The little girl asks. It is. My son suffered for the first 8 years of his life because of the stupidity of others, Kushina says, and follows her son. Kali chases a butterfly as Mitsuomi stood with a cigarette in his mouth. I've failed as a mother. My son smokes, Kushina says. Mitsuomi blows a stream of smoke. Coping mechanism, and they are flavored, he replies. Kali trots up and rubs Kushina's leg, and the redhead picks her up. Mom, I need to tell you something, and I don't think I should wait until we get back to Konoha, Mitsuomi says, and Kushina saw the saddened look on his face. It's about Aniki, Mitsuomi adds. He puts out his cigarette with another blow of smoke. He's gone, Mitsuomi whispers. Kushina places Kali back on the ground. Did something happen, she asks. Mitsuomi slowly nods with a sigh. I'll show you, he says, and touches their foreheads. The pair soon find themselves in front of a Gothic church, and Mitsuomi pushes open the door. Kyubi? He shouts. A growling echoes as the pair enter. So both my jailer and former jailer grace me with their presence, a deep voice growls. At the end of a row pews and below an elevated throne was an elephant-sized Kyubi no Kitsune-san's 7 tails, causing Kushina to furrow her brow. Minato sealed your soul and 1 tail's worth of chakra into Sochi. Why do you now have 2? Kushina said. Kyubi lifts off the floor. Your daughters are to thank for that. I siphoned some of their excess chakra, and Viola, I now have 2 tails, the fox comments, and Kushina glares. Kyubi, I need to show Mom what happened to Aniki, Mitsuomi says. Kyubi huffs as smoke fills the church, and from it emerges a young woman with red hair and slitted red eyes, dressed in a short red and white kimono, which extends to her mid-thigh, with a white nagajuban underneath. The sleeves of her kimono are wide with red arm warmers, a white obi and white with red trim boots. 2 red and black tipped tails wave behind her, and red fox ears on her head with 6 defined whiskers on her cheeks. I bet you didn't know I was female, did you, Kushina, she says, and looks to Mitsuomi. Though I despise your sperm donor and all his ilk save a few, I do care for you, kid, she adds. Kyubi raises her hand and fire raises to form a screen. Alright, Kushina gaze into the ether of his memories, she says. Flashback music, restriction and pledge, Hunter. Mitsuomi was laying in his tent but suddenly awakes with a start, and grabs a black dato with a few links of chain from the hilt. Mitsuomi heads outside his tent as a mist was rolling in. Come out, whoever you are, he shouts. A man with dirty blonde hair and blue eyes and dark clothes steps out the mist, causing Mitsuomi to relax and lower his sword. Aniki, Mitsuomi says, and Shishio rubs his head. Did I wake you, Shishio says? Mitsuomi slowly approaches as Shishio looks at the stars. I've taught you everything I know, right, kiddo, he says, and Mitsuomi nods. But I haven't taught you everything you need, Shishio adds. Shishio suddenly draws a white dato exactly like Mitsuomi's dato. What are you doing, Aniki? Mitsuomi shouts. Shishio points his sword with a serious look. Kiddo, you possess one of the 3 great dojutsu, but it isn't enough against the high-tier shinobi out there, he states. Your Sharingan is fully matured, but you need more, and I'm gonna give it to you, Shishio said and shot forward. Mitsuomi parries his strike. Are you crazy? He shouts and ducks a wide swipe. Mitsuomi blocks a heavy strike as Shishio forces him to one knee. Your goal is to fight Itachi one day and prove to Hokage-sama and everyone else you're not a mistake, then you need eyes like Itachi, Shishio shouts. Mitsuomi heaves Shishio back as his Sharingan subconsciously activates. No. I will not be like him, and I won't let these eyes rule me, Mitsuomi shouts. Shishio charges again as the pair exchange swipes and parries. Listen to me. You need strength to go with that. Will you have so kill me and gain the Manjikyu, he shouts. Mitsuomi kicks back with flickering eyes but tosses his sword on the ground. No. I will never fight you like this, he shouts. Shishio slashes Mitsuomi across the chest and kicks him his sword. Then you will die. He counters. Mitsuomi touches his bleeding chest as Shishio adopts an ox guard stance. Before long Mitsuomi takes a Gatatsu stance. Mitsuomi thrusts forward but Shishio parries his thrust and follow-up side-sweeping attack. I don't want to do this, Mitsuomi pleads, but Shishio presses. Oh yes, we are every day was to this possible end. Shishio shot into a furious exchange. Shishio cries out as Mitsuomi slashes his side, back and kicks out his legs, dropping him to his knees, but Mitsuomi halts his spin into a downward strike. Dio it kill me, Shishio shouts. Mitsuomi stifles a choking sob. No, I will not be like him, he shouts and turns to walk away. Shishio grabs his sword as a tear runs down his cheek. This has to be done, he whispers. Shishio springs up and charges into another furious exchange, but Shishio shifts Mitsuomi's sword behind his head and his own sword crossed under Mitsuomi's. If you need a visual, look up Connor vs. Duncan Highlander. No, Aniki, stop, not like this, stop, Mitsuomi shouts and tries to move them. Mitsuomi! Shishio shouts, his eyes glowing and showing a pair of stars. Mitsuomi could see the look of determination Shishio's face as tears ran down his cheeks. Goodbye, kiddo, my true brother, he says and pushes Mitsuomi with enough force. His head was severed from Mitsuomi's spin strike. Mitsuomi drops his sword as he suddenly grips his eyes. Aniki? He howls, as blood replaced tears. Mitsuomi falls to his knees as his Sharingan shifts to a starred pinwheel. End song and flashback. Kushina covers her mouth as Mitsuomi sitting and his face buried in his hands. I killed him, Mom, I killed your precious student, he cries. Kushina envelopes her son in a hug as he softly sobs. Shishio was a good man and his death wasn't your fault, she soothes. Mitsuomi softly sniffles as he pulls away and they return to the real world. Mitsuomi wipes his tears as Kushina stood next to him. Thank you for telling me, Sochi, she says. I learned from Conan later that Aniki was dying, Mitsuomi whispers. Mitsuomi picks up Callie, and she licks his cheek as Kushina gives him a side hug. Let's go back to the house, she says, as mother and son head back. Inari was standing outside as the trio returns. I'm sorry if I scared you, Inari, he says. I'm sorry too, but can you really beat Gato, Inari said, and Mitsuomi kneels to one knee. I promise Gato will fall, Mitsuomi replies. Inari suddenly hugs Mitsuomi with a few tears in her eyes. I sorry for growling, Callie says. Inari squats down and ruffles Callie's fur. Do you want to be friends, she asks, and Callie yips. The pair head off to the beach near the house as Mitsuomi and Kushina head inside. Naruko and Mito have concerned looks but Mitsuomi waves his hand. I'm fine, you too, he says. You fight me, Sasuke suddenly interjects with his minion in tow. Mitsuomi stares incredulously at the cocky teen. Really, I'll embarrass you, he shot. You can't beat Sasuke, Kyu, and Sakura shouts. Mitsuomi arches an eyebrow, but a slight smirk forms. Alright then, I'm game, let's step outside, he says. Sasuke adopts a cocky smirk as the group heads outside. Prepare to learn your place, he thought. Mitsuomi turns to face the Uchiha, and suddenly flares his Ki, causing Sakura to faint and a cold sweat to envelope Sasuke. No, it's like him, Sasuke thought. Mitsuomi's purple orbs bear a hole through Sasuke as he seems to loom over him. I have no time to teach a baby to breath, Mitsuomi coldly says and cancels his Ki. Mitsuomi turns and sees his mother gawking. Is something wrong, he asks. No, Sochi, it's just you sounded like my grandfather there for a minute, Kushina replies. Mitsuomi gives an eye smile as he rubs his head. Really, well, it just kinda came to me, he says. Mitsuomi strolls past Sasuke with a smirk that said I told you so as his sisters follow him. Damn him, I will make him pay, Sasuke thought. A week later, Team 7 move in a formation with Tazuna in the middle and Mitsuomi was walking under the bridge, but his presence concealed. The group reaches the center of the bridge and find many of the workers unconscious as a thick mist greets them. HM back for more copy ninja and I still owe the red hot habanero a funeral, a voice comments, seemingly everywhere. The genin surround Tazuna as Kushina and Kakashi guard them. From the mist emerges Zabuza with his hunter nin. Raiga with 6 missing nin from Kiri and the Kiba blades hanging from his waist. Hand over the bridge builder and submit to a glorious funeral, Raiga declares. Though I hate to admit, but he's right, save us the effort and hand over the old man, Zabuza said, as he and Raiga leak their Ki. Zabuza chuckles seeing Sasuke shaking and trying to put up a cocky look. Looks like the boy is scared. Haku can cure him of his fear, he says, forming 6 Mizubunshin. I'm shaking with excitement, not fear, Sasuke sneers and charges with his Sharingan active, making short work of the Bunshin. Footsteps start to echo on the bridge as Haku was about to charge Sasuke. A glorious funeral, you say, then how about a storm for your soon-to-be funeral, Raiga voice comments. A flicker of lightning appears as Mitsuomi slowly appears from the mist without his coat but his mask on. Raiga starts laughing as Mitsuomi has his hands on his pockets. How, what a banner day, we meet again, Kiryu the White Storm, where's the angel, Raiga shot. She didn't feel the need to involve herself with shameless murderers, Mitsuomi shot back. One of the former Kirinin steps forward. Raiga-sama, let me kill him, he sneers. Mitsuomi steps forward with a flick of his ear into a sprint as the ninja takes a Batajutsu stance, but Menma suddenly speeds up. Drawing quickly, the sword meets Mitsuomi's bracer with a spark. The ninja swings again, but Mitsuomi adeptly dodges and drills a right straight to his face. A kunoichi joins the fray and Mitsuomi skids back to block with his bracer, before sending a punishing roundhouse kick to her gut, and she crashes into the bridge. The first charges again, but Mitsuomi dodges nimbly and catches the ninja's arm between his chest and arm, squeezing and turning until it snaps and tossing the ninja into bridge as well. Enough, your fight is with me and your funeral is long overdue, Raiga shouts. I agree, Haku, take the gen and you lot go after the old man, Zabuza says, drawing his Kubikura Bocho. The remaining nin charge the old man as Haku rushes forward. Zabuza disappears into the mist as Kakashi gives chase. Raiga draws the Kiba blades as Mitsuomi notices Raiga wasn't as bulky as their previous encounter. Where's the boy, Mitsuomi asks. Raiga's eyes narrow but a sneer forms. Ranmaru? I realized I no longer needed that dead weight, so I for rid of him, and those curry owners, he sneers. Mitsuomi clenches his left fist but slowly open it as if holding a sheath. His right goes to draw an invisible sword and slowly pulls. Mitsuomi's black dado emerges like a miniature storm effect as a smirk forms under his mask. So you took away the one advantage you had against me, he says. Lightning skates across the Kiba blades as Raiga overlaps both swords. I will give you a magnificent funeral, he says. Mitsuomi adopts his Gatatsu stance. Well, you know the joke, maybe now you'll see the trick, he muses. Kakashi versus Zabuza like canon, enough said. Sasuke glares at Haku as Saban riddle his body. Damn her, he hisses. Haku slowly slips out the ice mirror as a kunai strikes her mask and Naruko appears with a downward kick after swapping with said kunai. Haku recovers as Naruko taps a seal on her forearm and a dato emerges. Haku fires several senbon as Naruko grips her sword, futon. Gus Dance, the blonde shouts, deflecting the senbon as she kicks back. Sasuke was glowering both as Naruko braces for Haku's barrage, Katan. Gokaku no Jutsu, he shouts, trying to incinerate both. Naruko dodges the flame as Haku retreats into a mirror. What the hell, team? She shouts. Mito versus missing nin. The red-hair twin of Naruko stood in front of Tazuna and Sakura as the missing nin charged them. Suetun. Mizurapa, she shouts. The blast of water erupts but the missing nin leap to dodge. That won't work on us, girly one shouts. I know, Mito shouts, as golden chains erupt from her back and latch onto them. Mito slams them to the ground as the chains drains their chakra until they are unconscious. Mito retracts her chains and creates 6 Kage Bunshin. I'm going help Naru guard Tazuna-san and Sakura, she orders. Right, boss, they said. Mito quickly heads to the dome mirrors as her twin was fighting nearly a 2-on-1 battle. Mito reaches the dome as her sister was narrowly dodging senbons from Haku as Sasuke saw her and a smirk formed. Suddenly Mito felt the rush of a substitution as she was now inside the ice dome and Sasuke outside as he collapses. Damn you, team, Naruko shouts. Conan and Kuratsuchi versus Gato's minions. Conan stands on the roof of Tazuna's house as Inari and Kali were playing. Conan wears a light blue kimono and white obi with wide sleeves to her mid-thigh, black shorts with mesh leggings and a pair of ankle-length boots. Kuratsuchi is on the ground and is wearing a long-sleeved shirt, black flak vest with blue jean short shorts and white leggings, along with kunoichi boots. The blue-hair kunoichi soon senses a pair approaching from her shiki. Inari-chan, Kali-boo, please go inside, she shouts. Both quickly enter the home as 2 men appear. One dressed in a dark purple hat on his head, the top of which extends far beyond the top of his head with a blue jacket with multiple pockets. The other wears what seems to be a loose-fitting kimono, albeit not in the traditional manner as the top half of the outfit falls around his waist leaving his upper body exposed, with bandages around his waist. Oh look, Waraji, some hot chicks guarding the house, the first sneers. Waraji licks his lips in a lewd manner. Maybe Gato will give us a turn, Zora, he sneers. Conan levels a deadly glare as paper starts to peel from her body. Paper wings soon form from her lower half as she hovers. Scum like you deserve to die, Conan hisses and raises her arms apart. Angelic advent, she shouts. Zora and Waraji had no time to react as paper tore through their bodies as Conan lands. Tsunami pokes her out with Inari clinging to her leg. Conan-san, she asks. Everything is fine, Tsunami-san, please remain inside a little longer, Conan replies. Kuratsuchi flashes several signs and slams her hands on the ground, causing both men to sink under the ground. They can come out now, Kuratsuchi says, and Conan nods. Raiga versus Mitsuomi. The tension between the pair slowly rises as both slowly edge forward but maintain their distance. Mitsuomi took one step forward and then shot forward, causing Raiga to backpedal and block Mitsuomi's thrust. Well, you're still sharp, Mitsuomi says. Raiga heaves Mitsuomi as lightning surges. Right on. Raiku, he shouts and fires a ball of lightning. Mitsuomi blocks horizontally as ball makes contact with his dato but sends the ball upward with a swing. Raiga closes the gap quickly to thrust both swords but Mitsuomi quickly lets go of his dato, catching it with his right and sending a side-sweeping attack to block both. Raiga backpedals once again but Mitsuomi closes the gap into a furious exchange as sparks fly. However, Raiga notices Mitsuomi seamlessly switching between hands with his flurry of swings. Raiga takes the cross stance with his sword as Mitsuomi took an ox guard. I see now the way you fight, your ambidextrous using Itoryu and notorious styles, Raiga states. Oh, very perceptive, Kirigakyu no Raijin, you and I are the same, Mitsuomi says and tosses right arm out as his white dato appears from his right hand. I call these swords the Black Joker and White Trick, he adds. Raiga maintains a cool facade but inside, those swords are the work of Shakurai, the famous swordsmith of iron and said to had a hand in creating the 7 swords of mist, he thought. Mitsuomi changes his stance with his trick horizontal and his joke vertical under the trick's hilt. Raiga sprints as Mitsuomi slowly moves into lightning-fast exchange, ending in a test of strength between the 4 blades. Raiga's eyes narrow but slowly widen as white lightning skates along Mitsuomi's swords. White lightning, impossible blue maybe, or the black variation from the Sandame Reikage and his apprentice Daru the Black Lightning, Raiga thought. The pair break apart and kick back as Raiga drives his swords into the bridge. Lightning burial. Banquet of lightning, he shouts. Lightning erupts through the ground towards Mitsuomi, but he drives his swords in the concrete, into a leap and a weave of signs. Katan, Hosenka no Jutsu, Mitsuomi thought, firing multiple fireballs. Raiga grabs his swords and kicks back. Raiton, Ryaku, he counters. Lightning and fire met in a small explosion and dust cloud as Raiga skids to a halt, but shocked breath escapes his lips as Mitsuomi was behind him. Raiton no Yoro! Raiga shouts, brings his swords together. An armor of lightning surrounds Raiga as Mitsuomi's palm made contact with his back. Clever but not enough, Mitsuomi says, with a slight jerk of his body. Raiga flies forward with the wind knocked out of him. Damn it, good thing for my armor, he thought, getting to one knee and coughing up some blood. Naruko and Mito versus Haku. The Namikaze twins were back-to-back, sporting numerous Saban wounds, but their eyes showed their determination. Haku was all around them in her mirrors. Please surrender, I do not wish harm you any further, she states. Naruko grips her sword as Mito readies her chains. Nay, I might have a plan, but Mom might get upset, she relays in twin speak. What plan? Naruko says, and Mito pats her belly. Naruko's blue eyes widen, but a slight smirk forms with a nod as both slams their hands there together. Suddenly the wind picked up violently as both were covered by red chakra. Haku's eyes widen behind her mask as Kushina turns to Ice Dome. My museums? She thought. Sasuke was sweating bullets as Sakura had wet herself. Meanwhile Kakashi charges abound Zabuza with his Raikiri but halts. Is this your doing, Kakashi? Zabuza shouts, but the Kopinin shakes his head. No, this is? Kakashi thought. Haku's eyes widen as cracks form in the ice mirror from the intense chakra of the twins. Who are these girls? She thought, but jerks. Suddenly Naruko slams a chakra-enforced punch into Haku, sending her flying out the mirror and crashing to the ground. Music, Bleach Os fade to black B13A. Mitsuomi approaches his swords as he feels the dense chakra. Well, it's time I end this, he says, and removes his mask, securing it to his belt. Raiga was back on his feet with his right and no Yoroi surging. I agree, White Storm, time for your funeral, he says, and brings his swords together. Mitsuomi spins his swords as lightning forms around them. Then show me what you got, he says, shifting to a dual Batajutsu draw. Raiga charges forward as Mitsuomi swings, but using his right and no Yoroi, dashes with a leap over the dual swing. Raiga brings both swords down. Notorio, Maguma, he roars, pushing Mitsuomi back with a skid. Raiga presses into a furious rush as Mitsuomi backpedals, but blocking every strike. Impressive, Raiga, but he says, and vanishes. Raiga whips around as Mitsuomi was above him. This is how it's done, Notorio, Maguma, Mitsuomi shouts, swinging down. Raiga charges his right and no Yoro, but twin slashes open on his shoulders as Mitsuomi's blades crack the concrete. Raiga staggers back as Mitsuomi stares, but the purple eye shinobi dispels his black joker. How about we end this, Mitsuomi states. Raiga slowly raises his sword skyward as Mitsuomi stood at the ready. Raiton, Raryu no Tatsumaki, he shows. A dragon forms around Raiga with glowing red eyes and charges Menma. Here's one dragon for another, Mitsuomi starts. Raiton Kenjutsu, Dragon Strike, Mitsuomi counters, swinging forward. A wailing and white lightning dragon with blue eyes charges the red-eyed dragon, before swirling around each other skyward. The wailing dragon crushes the wind dragon and engulfs Raiga in white lightning. His screams drowned out the haunting wail. The light dies down as Raiga stood with his skin seared dark in spots and smoke wafting from his body. Raiga falls to his knees as Mitsuomi approaches and the kiba blades clanging on the bridge, before Mitsuomi's sword under Raiga's chin. Tell me, it's been plaguing my mind since our first encounter. How were you able to counter Ranmaru? Raiga weakly asks. Mitsuomi closes his eyes and opens them, revealing his Sharingan, and Raiga wheezingly laughs, before Mitsuomi decapitates him. Mitsuomi sighs heavily and cancels his Sharingan. May you find peace as you perish, he thought, and dispels his sword. Song ends. Mitsuomi seals Raiga's head and swords before setting the body aflame, Sochi Kushina says. Mitsuomi turns and sees the astonished look on his mother's face. Everyone okay, he asks. The mist was clear and the twins has Haku leaning on the railing and Zabuza was clutching his bleeding limbs. Sasuke was glowering the trio and Sakura was thoroughly embarrassed, but Mitsuomi's eyes narrow, seeing Gato and about 40 bandits. Kill her, Gato screams, running away but falls on his rear as Mitsuomi appears in front of him. Mitsuomi reaches out and Gato screams in agony as lightning erupts from his body. He killed our meal ticket, get him, one bandit shouts. Mitsuomi shoots out his arm to summon his trick. Itoriu, Sanjiroka pound ho, he shouts and swings forward, cutting down the bandits. The remaining bandits back away but turn to see Kushina bearing down on them, before they leapt off the bridge in horror. Kushina flicks the blood of her sword and sheathes it. Well, that was a bit anticlimactic, she says. Mitsuomi Nisan! A voice shouts. Kushina sees Inari and villagers with various weapons, but they gasp seeing Gato's corpse. Gato is dead, we're free, several shout. Mitsuomi kneels to Inari. See, told you Gato would fall, he says, and Inari hugs him. 2 weeks later, Team 7 as well as Mitsuomi, Kuratsuchi and Conan stood before the now complete Great Namikaze Bridge. Haku and Zabuza left the previous day to join the rebellion in freeing Kiri from the bloodline purges. Tazuna, Tsunami and Inari were saying their goodbyes. Promise you'll come visit, Inari asks. Naruko ruffles her hair with a cheeky smile. Sure, and we'll bring Mitsu and I, she says. Thank you so much for freeing our country, I promise to pay full amount soon, Tazuna said. Kushina waves her hand. No problem, Minato will allow you to make payments, or even forego the rest, she says. Tazuna gasps and takes Kushina by the hand. Thank you, he cries. Mitsuomi was off to the side with Kali in his vest, and relaying his message to a bunshin. Nianai, Mito asks, and Mitsuomi glances her way. Would you mind asking Konan-san to teach me some Swate Unjutsu, she adds. Of course, Mito-chan, as your soon-to-be sister-in-law, once he actually proposes, it would be an honor to teach you the Swate Unjutsu. He can even teach Naruko-chan some right un. Konan says, and Mitsuomi puffs his cheeks, as Kuratsuchi giggles. Sochi, Kuratsuchi-chan, Konan-chan, Kushina shouts, and Mitsuomi waves as the bunshin vanishes. At same time, Sasuke was glaring at Mitsuomi. No one makes me look weak, I'll tell the council to make him hand everything he has and his women to repopulate my clan, then have him killed, he thought. The group left amid cheers as they made their way back to Konoha. Kushina moves next Mitsuomi as they take to the trees. Sochi, how many people know you're back in Konoha other than Minato, she asks. Yugao and the Umbu guarding him, Gigi and Miko Basin. I wore my mask outside my apartment, Mitsuomi replies. Kushina gives him a rueful look and Mitsuomi sighs. But I might come back and live in the compound, he says, and Kushina perks up. However, knowing the council well, the civilians and elders, they know I'm back in Konoha, so staying at the compound would be beneficial, Mitsuomi adds, but thought. Especially with Yujito coming, he thought. 2 days later, Team 7 and their backup reaches the gates of Konoha. True to his words, Umbu was waiting. Please follow me, the council wishes your presence, she states. To be continued, CH2. The council of Konoha was divided into 3 parts, its shinobi side, civilian and advisory sides. The shinobi side is comprised of the great clans of Konoha, Aburame, Nara, Akimichi, Yamanaka, Uchiha, Hyuga, Kurama, Uzumaki, Sarutobi and Senju. The civilian side was made up of wealthy merchants and most notably Mabuki Haruno. Its advisory side was comprised of Danzo Shimura, Kohara Yudatane, Hamura Mitokado and Sarutobi Hiruzen. Minato sits at the center of a U-shaped table awaiting Team 7 and Mitsuomi. Slowly the doors opened revealing the team and Mitsuomi, but next to him were 2 cloaked figures. I apologize for the short notice after just arriving back from a mission, but the council had some concerns, Minato states. Kushina silently scoffs and rolls her eyes. And what is the concern, she asks. The concern is that Dem It is back in the village, Mabuki screeches. Mitsuomi slowly removes his hood and mask with a shake of his head. It seems you couldn't keep my secret, Hokage-sama, but by no fault on your part, it's those who have their greedy fingers where they don't belong, he says. Several civilian members whisper curses about Mitsuomi, but Kushina releases her ki to silence them. Hokage-sama, to allow this boy to associate with Sasuke-sama is detrimental to his training, Kohara says. In what way, Kohara-san, Minato asks. Mitsuomi rubs the side of his head. She believes I'm a taint to everyone around me because of my special circumstances, Hokage-sama, he says. Boy, who is the person next to you, Danzo interjects. Mitsuomi slightly glares at the older man. These are my partners and lovers Conan and Kuratsuchi, he replies. They should be given to Sasuke, Kyuen, Mabuki shouts. Sasuke nods with a smirk and a cocky stance. I agree, and I want everything he owns, he sneers. Mitsuomi turns to Sasuke with a cold look on his face, and the younger flinches. Do I need to repeat myself as I did in Wave, he said. The civilian side were horrified by Mitsuomi's tone, but the shinobi side were impressed except for Hayashi. Hokage-sama, I have a request or a challenge if you'll hear it, Mitsuomi says, and Minato furrows his brow but nods. The chunin exams will take place in 1 month's time, how about I compete in the exams, Mitsuomi says, and the civilians again cause a ruckus, but Minato raises his hand. If as a ronin it could be allowed, but you don't have a team, Minato says. While true, but how about a wager to appease the council, Mitsuomi says and pauses. I can compete in the chunin exams alone, he declares. Kushina and the twins gasp in shock, but Mitsuomi raises a single finger. Should I make it to the chunin finals and do well, you agree to several terms, no questions asked, he says, and holds up a second finger. If I fail to make it, I will be banished from Konoha and Hinokuni, also be stripped of my status as soon to be head of the Uzumaki clan, Mitsuomi adds. The council room was silent as the civilians were liking the idea, but Minato could only stare. Mitsuomi, he starts and calms himself. I agree to your terms, but you'll need a Jonin sensei to qualify, and you do fully understand the ramifications of this, he says. Mitsuomi bows deeply with a nod. I do, Hokage-sama, and it's high time the people of Konoha and this council understand just who the fuck I am, he states, turning on his heels with a flap of his coat. Mitsuomi, if you like, I can be your Jonin sensei, a voice says. Everyone sees Mikoto rise from her seat. Then I look forward to your guidance, Mikoto sensei, Mitsuomi says, leaving with Conan and Kuratsuchi in tow. Minato dismisses the council, and he knows it will be a matter of time before the whole village knew Mitsuomi had returned. Minato, what were you thinking? Kushina shouts. Minato sighs heavily and glances to his daughters, and both have teared up faces. I'm sorry, but you know, council, he says. Damn the council, our son could lose his birthright, Kushina said, but a cold look forms. I'm sorry, my son could lose his birthright, she adds. Minato rubs his forehead at Kushina's tone, but the sandaime clears his throat. Kushina-chan, tell me, do you know how strong Mitsuomi-kun has become? Hiruzen comments. Kushina remembers the battle on the bridge. GG, but will it be enough? He'll be targeted from outside forces and inside, she replies. Trust him, Kushina, I've seen his skills and the village will learn just who he is, Hiruzen states. Mitsuomi walks through the village with a quickened pace, but he could feel 2 pairs of eyes on him. What? He said. I know you're pissed, but this isn't out of what you thought, Kuratsuchi says. Mitsuomi slips, grasps their shoulders and shunshins them to his apartment. You're right, you saw those sycophant civilians and elders, he said, and unlocks the door. The sound of a shower catch their ears and the clone in a chair, before promptly dispelling as the shower stops. Someone is already enjoying themselves, Conan notes. The door opens with a billow of steam as out comes a young woman in short shorts and a towel draped on her shoulders, obscuring her C-cup breasts, pixie dirty blonde hair and dark violet eyes. About time, the girl said. Mitsuomi rubs his mouth with a soft smile. Hello, Yujito, he says. Yujito smiles warmly and glomps her boyfriend. Hey, Mitsuber-ko-chan, Kuro-chan, she says and bends down. Kali boo, she croons, picking up the tiger. Kali purrs and rubs her head on Yujito's cheek. I miss you, Nasen, she says. Hello, Yujito, any trouble getting into the village, Conan said. Yujito puts Kali on the floor and slips on a shirt with a shake of her head. Nope, she says. Mitsuomi creates 3 kage bunshin. We got a problem at Wedas, I thought so, I'm going into the exams alone, he says. Are you insane? Yujito shouts. Mitsuomi plops in a chair as his clones pack and Yujito kneels in front of him. Kumo and Iwa are definitely gonna be gunning for you for me and Kuro Kuri might once they hear you killed Raiga and took the Kiba blades, then this place, she said. Mitsuomi gives her a soft smile. I'll be fine now, pack up, we're heading to the Namikaze estate, he says. Why, Yujito said, picking up Kali. Mitsuomi rises from his chair with a sigh. Because very soon the village will know I'm back and I want you 3 to be safe, he explains. Yujito and Kuratsuchi softly smile and Conan places Kali in Mitsuomi's vest. Alright, I'll slip on my cloak and mask, Yujito says. Yujito slips on a gray cloak like Conan and Kuratsuchi. Also a mask with intricate designs but half black and half white with blacked out eyes. The foursome grab their things as Mitsuomi shifts Kali in his vest. Where are we going now, Nisan, she asks. We're going stay with my mom and sisters, Mitsuomi says. The clones hand Mitsuomi 2 scrolls and promptly dispel as he places the keys on the table. Let's go, he says, as they file out. The landlord was coming up the steps as the 4 step out. Ah, perfect, I was coming to let you know that I must unfortunately terminate your lease, he says. Fine by me, I was leaving, I heard a demon lived here anyway, Mitsuomi shot and all 4 vanish. Moments later the 4 were standing in front of the Namikaze compound. Is that really how those people act, Yujito asks. They do, and that's why I'm coming here, Mitsuomi says and touches the gate. The gate opens and the 4 step in as Kushina rushes out the house but halts. Sochi? She shouts. Yeah, I guess my chakra is still ingrained in the jutsu, otherwise it wouldn't open, Mitsuomi said, pulling Kali from his vest. The little tiger was in awe and starts running around the grounds as Kushina spies Yujito. I'm Yujito Ni and I'm your son's other girlfriend, Yujito says, removing her mask into a bow. Kushina's purple orbs light up but dim because she may not see her grandchildren if Mitsuomi doesn't do well enough. Mom, don't worry, Database, he says, tapping his bicep. That right, you're my son, Databane, Kushina chirps and picks up Kali as she snuggles her leg. Come in, we have plenty of room, she adds. The 4 follow Kushina but old memories resurface for Mitsuomi. Many nights coming home from a beating, or a day of glares and ignorance. Naruko and Mito were in the living room with Minato as the 5 enter. Nia na Mitsu and I both said. Minato gives Mitsuomi a curt nod and he reciprocates. I believe this makes 3, Minato says. I'm Yujito Ni and it's honor to meet you, Yandame-sama, Yujito greets. Mitsuomi creates 2 bunshin. Take our stuff to the guest wing, he says, removing his cloak, as does Yujito, Kuratsuchi and Conan. Please sit and tell us about yourselves, Minato asks. Yujito glances to Mitsuomi and takes his hand. Well, my story is where things get complicated and not just us but possibly Konoha too, she starts. Minato furrows his brow as does Kushina. In what regard, she asks. Well, I'm the Jinchuriki of Nibi no Nikomata Matatabi, Yujito states, and squeezes Mitsuomi's hand more. I'm originally from Kumo. I was given Matatabi when I was a year old. I was raised by Kumo's council to be their weapon and I had the seals to prove it about 2 years ago. Mitsuomi came to collect on the bounty for Orum. The bulky Isama was glad that he stopped him, but the council wasn't. I was sent to kill him when he passed Kumo's borders. We fought and he actually kept me from going full transform, Yujito explains. You can fully utilize your Biju, Minato asks. Yujito slowly nods with a soft look in her eyes. Yes, Killer Bisama taught me how Mitsuomi defeated me and I fully expected to die, she says, but a tear forms. But Mitsuomi broke the seals and saved me from a life of slavery. After the battle he sent an encrypted message to Yaisama about me but received no reply, so I believe once word gets out that Mitsuomi is back in Konoha, a team or 2 from Kumo will be looking for me or want revenge on him, Yujito said. I'm in the same boat as Kitty Cat. My full name is Kuratsuchi Kamizuru, and that makes my gramps Inoki Kamizuru the Sandamed Suchikuj. Kuratsuchi starts, shocking them. My gramps let others get into his head, mainly my scumbag uncle. He never saw me as his niece but as a tool. I possessed the Yotan Kekei Genkai, and once the current Yambi Jinchuriki got old I would have been used, but my dad Kitsuchi got me out of the village. I met Mitsuomi, and the others about 4 years ago, and the rest is history, Kuratsuchi finishes. Minato leans back in his chair with frown, but it shifts into a thinking look on his face. Do you believe Kumo would declare war for you Yujito-san or IWA for you Kuratsuchi-san, he asks. Yaisama no, but the council could push to have their pet back, Yujito said. My gramps would be weary to face the Kiroi Senko in battle again, but my uncle who the fuck knows, Kuratsuchi says. Kushina shook her head. Yujito, as a former Jinchuriki, I know the hardship of that life and my children know it, especially my Sochi. I swear on the honor of the Uzumaki clan I'll protect you, she said. Us too, Naruko said, and Mito nods. I will as well as Hokage. I can't turn a blind eye to the suffering of others, Minato says. Yujito bows deeply as Mitsuomi gives a silent scoff. Thank you Yandame-sama and everyone, she says, and Kuratsuchi bows as well. Then where were you when Kit suffered? Kyubi comments. Mitsuomi rubs his bandaged arm with a soft groan. Mom, do you know if Granny Tsunade is at the Senju compound or the hospital, he asks. Probably passed out somewhere, Naruko says, but Mito pops her. Why Nianai? Mito asks. Well, I need her to look at my arm, plus Conan wants to learn some medical ninjutsu, Mitsuomi said. Yujito looks at Conan with a cheeky look and Kuratsuchi snorts. Plus she a huge fan. Yujito chides and Conan glares, causing a stare-off between the pair. No fighting, Mitsuomi says, and both stop. It's been a trying day, why don't we all get some rest, Kushina said. Mitsuomi rises from his seat as do Conan and the others. Sounds good, Naruko, you wanna come with me tomorrow and Conan can show Mito some Swate Unjutsu, he says. I can show spar with her as well, Yujito adds, and Kuratsuchi nods. The twins hug their brother as everyone heads off to leave husband and wife. He's grown into a fine young man. I'm ashamed I missed so much of his life over things not of his making, Minato says. Kushina kisses his temple with a soft look. Then I pray he succeeds. I don't think I could bear to lose him again, she whispers, and Minato holds her. The next day Mitsuomi with Naruko and Kali riding his vest were walking through the village towards Konoha General. So why do you need see Bachan, she asks. Mitsuomi raises his bandaged arm. A few months ago I tangled with a shady clan of shinobi, and I got injured. Conan knows the basics, so I need her to give me a full exam, he explains. Then you'll teach me some right Unjutsu, Naruko asks, and Mitsuomi pats her head. Of course, but we need stop by the Forest of Death so Kali can see her siblings, Mitsuomi replies. Why then, Naruko asks. Mitsuomi rubs Kali on the head and she purrs. Kali is actually a summoned animal of the Tiger clan and a few live in the forest, he says. I thought Kyubi was helping her talk, but she's a summon, cool, Naruko says. The pair fell into silence as Mitsuomi notices a few dirty looks from people. That didn't take long, he thought. Naruko starts to notice them as her brother was quiet and was about to say something. It's alright sis, they can't touch me now, Mitsuomi says. They pass a food vendor with fresh apples. Oh Naruko-sama, a good morning to you, the woman greets. Naruko pulls Mitsuomi towards the vendor and grabs an apple, but her blue orbs see the cold look the woman gives her brother. Mitsu and I want one, she asks. Sure, Mitsuomi says and reaches for one. Oh, these aren't fresh, the woman says, with a fake smile. Naruko's eyes narrow and a blank look forms. Oh, I see, well, we'll go elsewhere, she says and pulls Mitsuomi along. I told you it's alright, Mitsuomi assures, but Naruko shakes her head. No, it's not, you're my brother, Naruko says. The pair reach the hospital as Kali wakes from her nap in his vest and shakes her head. Welcome, how may I help you? A nurse greets but blushes. Mitsuomi give her a warm smile, but the nurse was staring at Kali instead of him. We're here to see Bachan, Naruko says, stifling a giggle. The nurse blinks and looks up. Oh, Tsunade-sama is finishing her morning rounds and should be in her office on the 7th floor, she said, petting Kali. Kali purrs as Mitsuomi smiles. Thank you, ma'am, he says, as they head for the elevator. Thank you, Kali says, and the nurse blinks. Did she talk, she muses. Mitsuomi and Naruko soon steps off the elevator and head down the hall. I bet she's passed out at her desk, Naruko muses. Mitsuomi knocks twice and slowly opens the door as Tsunade was in fact asleep at her desk. Told you, the blonde shot. Mitsuomi pulls Kali and places her on the desk. Okay, do your thing, he says. Kali rubs against Tsunade with loud purring, waking the pigtail blonde from her seat. Tsunade mumbles and sees the small tiger and two people standing and her eyes widen at one. Mitsuomi, she said. Hi, it's been Granny Tsunade, Mitsuomi said. Tsunade comes around the desk to hug her surrogate grandson. I'll say kid 10 years, she says, and Mitsuomi nods. So why are here? I'm sure Kushina must be thrilled to have you back, Tsunade said. Mitsuomi holds up his bandaged arm. I need the greatest medic, he adds. Tsunade's honey eyes narrow. Alright, follow me, and you too, Gaki, you can observe, she says. Mitsuomi follows Tsunade to an exam room as Naruko holds Kali. How bad? Tsunade asks. About 4 months ago I had a run-in with the Black Spider clan, Mitsuomi starts. Tsunade opens the door and motions for him to sit. I've heard of them, they've been a thorn in the side of hot water country, she said. Mitsuomi slips off his shirt, vest and glove, revealing his various other scars and places his hand on the bandages. They loosen and fall to the floor as Naruko gasps loudly, Mitsu and I? She say, shuddering. Tsunade was looking with a medical eye as she checks his skin. Acid cloud or acidic water? It seems sulfuric in nature, she asks, moving his fingers. A bit of both, a jutsu called acid storm, Mitsuomi said. Naruko was watching behind her brother, and the burn encompassed his left arm and a few small spots on his side. A jutsu did all that, she whispers. I have spots on my leg as well, but my arm took the brunt of it. I was saving someone at the time, Mitsuomi replies. Tsunade activates her mystic palm technique and runs it along Mitsuomi's arm. You seem to be healing alright, but you probably worried the acid seeped into your muscle tissue, she asks. Yeah, Conan did most of the aftercare. and that was her biggest concern, Mitsuomi replies, and Tsunade arches an eyebrow. Then I'd like to meet her, she's got some skill, Tsunade comments, and Menma nods. Tsunade finishes her diagnosis and jots a few things down. Well, you do have some acidic residue in your muscles, and if you're will to be a guinea pig, I let your friend remove it with a few students including your sisters as a teaching exercise, she states. Mitsuomi redresses his arm using chakra strings. I don't mind, I was gonna ask you show Conan some stuff anyway, he says, slipping his shirt, vest and glove back on. Alright, I'll set it up for Saturday, Tsunade comments, and Mitsuomi nods. Sure, hey sis, wanna get some ramen, Mitsuomi adds. Naruko had been quiet the entire time and buries her face in his chest. Sure, I'm alright, Mitsuomi soothes. He's right, his girlfriend took amazing care of him except for the scars, the damage is minimal, Tsunade said. Naruko pulls away and wipes her tears. I know, but you have to do the chunin exams alone and you're injured, she whispers. What, you're taking the exams alone? Tsunade shouts. Menma rubs his forehead with a sigh and explains what Tsunade missed at the council meeting. A scowl formed of Tsunade's face. Stupid council and stupid Minato for letting them walk all over him. This should have been a clan issue, not civilian, she comments. Mitsuomi picks Callie up with a sigh. It won't matter, I'll show him and the village what I can really do, he says. You better, kiddo, and I'll see you Saturday, Tsunade said, kissing his forehead. Mitsuomi and Naruko excuse themselves as Tsunade heads back to office. Tsunade-sama, was that, Shizen asks. Yep, that was him, alright, Tsunade says, and Shizen slowly nods. Welcome home, Shizen thought. Anko Mitarashi was having a slightly good day, after gorging on dango and torturing prisoners. However, something had been nagging her for at least a week or two, and it ramped up as several drunken villagers at the bar on the previous night said the Kyuubi brat was back. Anko knew better than to believe rumors and wanted to speak to the only person who would. However, her suspicions were confirmed as a pair enter Ichiraku Ramen. No fucking way? Anko thought. At the same time, Tucci was wiping the counter. Gigi, I need ramen stat, Naruko shouts. Tucci looks up with a smile, but his eyes widen. Mitsuomi? He says. Mitsuomi gives him a wave as they sit down. Hey old man, Tucci, he says. I am comes from the back and her eyes widen too and breath hitched. Mitsuomi. She shouts. Hey, I am Mitsuomi, and I am comes around the counter to hug him. Anko watches from the shadows with slight smirk but vanishes. Okay old man, 12 bowls of miso ramen for me and 12 for my sis, her choice, Mitsuomi says, and places Callie on the counter. And some beef pieces for her, he adds. I am squeals and pets Callie as the little tiger purrs. She's so cute, where'd you get her, she asks. Callie sits on her haunches. I'm a summon aminal, and when I get big I'll be like my brother Liger, she says, and I am squeals again. Before helping out her father. Several people enter the shop but see Mitsuomi and left. That's right, my favorite customer is back, Tucci shouts. Mitsuomi curtly nods as he slurps down his 5th bowl. Thanks old man, he tries to say with his mouth full. Naruko glances back with a mouth full of noodle. Irika-sensei, she garbles. Irika waves as he enters the shop. Hello Naruko, he greets. Irika-sensei, meet my big brother Mitsuomi, Naruko says. Mitsuomi gives Irika a nod and Irika reciprocates. It's a pleasure to meet you, Irika says. Likewise, Naruko told me you were her academy teacher, and I apologize for what she put you through, Mitsuomi, and Naruko puffs her cheeks with a punch. Irika waves his hand with a sweat drop. No, it was quite alright, she and Mito were good students, and I'm proud of them, he says. Mitsuomi smiles warmly and ruffles Naruko's blonde locks. I am too, he muses. The pair finish their meal and thank Tucci and I am. Alright, to the forest of death, Mitsuomi says, but decides to quicken the pace and right shuns them to the main gate. You gotta teach me that too, Naruko says. Mitsuomi takes a step forward and suddenly catches a kunai. So the rumors are true, a voice comments. Anko lands in front the gate with a slight smirk but eeps and narrowly dodges a lightning-infused kunai. And you're still naughty, proper naughty, Koko, Mitsuomi says. Anko giggles as she saunters up to him to poke his chest. And I outrank you, she croons but hugs him. I've missed you, she says. I've missed you too, Anko, but only for now, Mitsuomi says, and Callie pop out. Hello, she greets. Anko backs up as Naruko laughs. She's a summon, Naruko said. Oh, so why have come to my playground, Anko declares, arms apart. Mitsuomi points down to Callie. Some of her clan reside here, he replies. Anko furrows her brow with a thinking pose. Alright, I'll let you in, but I'm coming with so we can catch up, she says, poking Mitsuomi's chest. The 3+ tiger leap over the gate and tree hop west. Naruko, how far are you with your right-un training, Mitsuomi asks. Mom and Kakashi-sensei taught me how to crumble the leaf with right-un, but they mainly focused on futon, Naruko replies. Mitsuomi rubs his chin then holds up a light bulb and both to gawk. Where did get that, Naruko asks. Muffin button, Mitsuomi curtly replies, and both sweat drop. Anyway, the next step to power a light bulb continuously for 10 minutes with right-un, he adds. The trio land in a decent-sized clearing and Mitsuomi lets Callie down. Alright, announce your return, he says. Callie walks about 2 feet and lets out the loudest roar she can muster, before sitting on her haunches and a series of roars echo. Naruko and Anko get on guard but Mitsuomi points. As from the tree line 2 normal-size white tigers emerge. An elephant-size white female Bengal tiger follows with 3 small tigers. Callie immediately rushes the 3 smaller ones into a mock battle. The Bengal approaches Menma and plops down. It's been a while, White Blaze, Mitsuomi says. Art too long, Liger misses you, White Blaze comments and spies the others. I don't bite much, she adds. Naruko slowly approaches as does Anko. Hello, I'm Naruko, and I'm Anko, they said in tandem. White Blaze chuckles deeply as Callie approaches. Mama, she says, and they nuzzle noses, still riding with him. White Blaze notes. Mitsuomi chuckles softly as he rubs his ear. I don't mind, besides it makes her feel tall, he muses. Callie went back to playing with her smaller siblings as Mitsuomi approaches Naruko. How's it coming, he asks. Arg, it's hard, Naruko huffs. Mitsuomi squats next to her as Anko was sitting in a tree. Futon is your stronger affinity, so it'll be harder, but I'm sure a future Hokage can do it, he muses. Of course, Databeo, Naruko shouts. Mitsuomi rubs under his nose with a small laugh. Exactly, he says, and walks up the tree, taking a seat next to Anko. So it's been 10 years since we've seen each other, and you're a Tokubetsu Jonin now, Mitsuomi says. Anko scoffs and puffs out her chest. Yep, and you're a merc, she says, but a rueful look forms. I'd wish she'd been here, she whispers. Mitsuomi furrows his brow and Anko pulls her mesh shirt to reveal her curse mark. My bastard of a sensei did this and abandoned me, she whispers. Mitsuomi clenches his fist and lightning forms. Did you show my mom, he asks. She said it was incomplete, and she's working on trying to break it, but it's slow going, Anko replies. Mitsuomi pulls Anko into a hug and she holds him tight. Don't tell anyone about this or I'll castrate you, she says. And my girlfriends would destroy you, Menma says, and Anko scoffs. Will that include me, Anko asks. Mitsuomi leans back on the tree. Sure, but you'll have share me with 3 more and are really hot, he says, and Anko punches his shoulder. They better be, Anko shot. Sasuke glares at his mother from his spot at the table. Why, he said. Mikoto looks up with a confused look on her face. Why, what, she asks. Sasuke slams his fist with a scowl. Why are you his sensei? He shouts. Mikoto places her fork down with a serious look. I am a jonin of this village, and I'm allowed to teach whoever I choose, she states. But why him? Sasuke shouts, shooting from his seat. Mikoto blinks slightly and rises from her seat. Sasuke, I don't know what you have against Mitsuomi, but I will be his sensei whether you like it or don't, she says. The doorbell rings to stop Sasuke's retort, and he storms off to his room. Mikoto answers the door and Mitsuomi was standing at the doorway. Mitsuomi, she asks. Actually, I'm a Kage, but Shinmenma wanted to inform you that he's currently in training ground 44 with Naruko, and Anko, if you need him for anything I will relay the message, the clone says. Mikoto rubs her chin for a moment. Well, have him meet me at training ground 33 at 2, she replies. The clone salutes and promptly vanishes with no smoke. Amazing, a lot like Shursui, she muses. Sasuke watches from a window. I will have my vengeance, he thought. Mikoto went back inside and got dressed in her jonin uniform and tied her hair in a single bun with hair needles. Mikoto decides to pay Kushina a visit and reaches the Namikaze compound as Minato was leaving, before exchanging greetings as she enters. Mikoto spies Kushina watching Mito perform a jutsu, and 2 young women observing the younger redhead. Suetun, Teppadama, Mito shouts, as the blonde dodges. Kushina sees Mikoto approaches and waves. Hey Miko-chan, she says. Hello Kushina, how are you today, Mikoto asks. Things are good, my children are back together, and the prospect of grandchildren is high. My Sochi has 3 girlfriends and a possible 4th with Anko-chan, Kushina says, but saddened look forms. That is if he does well in the chunin exams, she adds. Mikoto places a comforting hand on Kushina's shoulder. Mitsuomi will be fine, he's your son, she said. Mikoto Basin is right, Nianai is strong, I know he can do it, Mito said, approaching. Yujito was soaking wet with Conan maintaining a stoic face but failing and Kuratsuchi laughing. Mikoto looks over the 3 and bows. Hello, I'm Mikoto Uchiha and I will be Mitsuomi's jonin sensei to allow him to compete, she greets. I'm Conan, no family name, this is Kuratsuchi Kamizuru, and the wet feline is Yujito ni, Conan says, and Yujito hisses like a cat. Whatever, I'm going take a shower and Mito, good work today, Yujito says and heads to the house. I agree, you have a very good affinity for Suetun, Conan says, and Mito blushes. She almost matches her brother in terms of affinity, Kuratsuchi says. I hope to match the Nidames someday, Mito replies. That's a lofty goal, Mikoto comments, and Kushina claps her hands. Why don't we take a break, Mito, leave some Bunshin to work on your control, Kushina states. Mito made about 50 clones as the group heads inside for a much-needed break. Meanwhile, Naruko was surrounded by 100 clones, each with bulb and trying to complete their exercise. Mitsuomi was laying on his stomach next to her with Callie and her siblings on his back, with Anko off on a patrol with the twins. So you actually liberated a country, and you know Princess Gale, Naruko asks, incredulously. Mitsuomi nods with a drag on his cigarette. We actually lucked out meeting Koyuki, and Aniki insisted it was a good test for me and Conan, well, especially her due to her Hayatan, and I copied several jutsu and can do several combination jutsu with her, he explains. Naruko dispels several clones and groans from the overload. So what will you do with the Kiba blade, she asks. If Kiri comes to the exams, I'll give it back to them, I don't need the excess drama, Mitsuomi replies. White Blaze chuckles deeply. You thrive on excess drama, kiddo, she notes. True, but I'm back with my family and I gotta be on my P's and Q's lest the council pulls some shit, Mitsuomi states, moving and the cubs falling off. Mitsuomi cracks his back and joints. Let's head back, I gotta meet Mikoto Basin in an hour, he says. Naruko dispels her remaining clones and pops her stiff joints too. It was nice meeting you, White Blaze, she says, picking up Callie. Not a problem, kitten, and if you get tired of summoning toads we can use another summoner, White Blaze says, as her and the cubs dispel. I'll have to think about that, Naruko muses, as the pair take to the trees. Mitsuomi and Naruko soon exit the woods and Callie leaps on Naruko's head. I see you later and keep practicing, he says, and vanishes. Mitsuomi arrives at the training ground and caught sight of Mikoto with Yujito, Kuratsuchi and Conan. Mikoto waves him over as they sit on a pair of fallen trees. Well, I would like see your skills, said. I only have Kushina's word, she says. Mitsuomi rises from his spot with a slight look. Well, I have 3 affinities, but my right one is strong. How I show this, he says, and holds his index fingers close together. Soon lightning sparks and surges as he pulls his hands apart. Amazing his control is, for lack of better term, inhuman, Mikoto thought, seeing white lightning skating around Mitsuomi's body. In the trees, Sasuke watches with searing anger as Mitsuomi stops and plops back down. You continue to piss that boy off, QB notes. Amazing, Mikoto says and taps under her right eye. And has this matured and did it evolve, she adds. Mitsuomi sighs with a nod. Fully and evolved to evoke the storm god, he says. Mikoto's eyes widen but she calms down. Are you positive, she asks, and Mitsuomi nods. I see. Well, since obviously Mitsuomi has the chunin exams soon, I'll focus on working with your Sharingan and testing it out with their help, Mikoto states. We'll have limit what we can show around others, Kuratsuchi says, and Conan nods. Especially our true skills, some would run to your council to have them given said techniques, Conan adds. Mikoto sighs softly with a look to the sky. I agree, well, let's dismiss for the day, she says. All 4 rise and bow as Mikoto flame shins away. She's nice compared to her son, Conan notes. She's my godmother after all, Mitsuomi says and lights a strawberry cigarette. How did Mito do today, he adds. Yujito scoffs as they walk to the compound. She's good, I bet she's the level-headed twin, she says. I would agree, Mito is quite the kunoichi and Naruko, Conan asks. Mitsuomi blows a puff of smoke. A bit brash, but she can do it, he says and taps his palm. Oh, I have 4th girlfriend now, he says. Who? The 3 shout and Mitsuomi glances back. Anko Mitarashi, Mitsuomi replies. Who, Yujito asks. Mitsuomi puts out his cigarette in his glove and was about to say something, when a huge plume of smoke erupts and from it emerges the lady in question. Anko Mitarashi, ultra sexy Tokubetsu Jonin, Anko declares. Conan stares blankly, but Yujito and Kuratsuchi were laughing. Ha ha ha, I like her already, welcome to the harem, Yujito shouts. Mitsuomi's eyes widen with a shocked intake of breath and Conan rubs her forehead. It's a pleasure, Mitarashi-san, she says. Likewise, and you're right there, hot, Anko comments. Conan gives Mitsuomi a look and he sighs in defeat. How was the patrol with the twins, he asks, as they continue on. Good, those 2 come in handy, Anko comments, biting a piece of dango. Several of villagers see them and whisper, but the 5 ignore them. So have y'all fucked yet, Anko asks. Conan and Kuro are virgins, but Menma and I have fucked once, Yujito says, not missing a beat. A cloud forms over Mitsuomi's head and Conan rubs his bandaged arm. Well, excuse me for wanting to be traditional, Conan says, and Kuratsuchi nods, but Yujito waves her hand. Just teasing, besides our one time was because of our tenants, Yujito says and whispers tenants, as they continue through the village. Naruko arrives home with Callie in her arms as she spies her sisters bunching going through various things. The blonde heads inside as her twin was on the sofa sleeping, causing Callie to wiggle out and climb onto Mito. Naruko giggles as she plops on the other sofa and practiced with her light bulb. Where's Nianai? Mito yawns. Meeting Mikoto Basin, Naruko replies. Mito shifts on her side as Callie rolls onto the sofa with a playful growl. I've missed him, she whispers. Naruko stares at the bulb. 10 whole years we were little when he left. Why did he have to leave though? Was it that bad mom and dad were here? Gigi Bachan and Shizunizan, she whispers. We were blind to his suffering, a voice comments. The twins turn and see their mother with a saddened look. I had my hands full with the 2 of you, but your brother always kept things to himself, Kushina says and takes a seat. Mito and Naruko sit up as Mito holds Callie and Kushina sighs. I think it's time I told you the truth about your brother, and the circumstances of his birth and leaving, she explains. Sochi was born 2 years before the Kyuubi attack. I was in Umbu at the time. Minato and I were not too long married. I was on a mission with someone I considered a friend and he took advantage of me, she starts. Mom, you were, Naruko said, and Kushina slowly nods, wiping a tear. I was, and I killed him. It was after that Minato placed the Horatian seal on me, Kushina starts. I was so ashamed I didn't leave the compound. I learned a month later I was pregnant. Minato didn't take it well and we talked about ending the pregnancy, but I refused. To end a life because of what one person did. My friends Some Hitomi and Mikoto were the only ones I told. Minato told everyone who asked that I was on a long-term mission to our ancestral home of Yuzushiogakure. 9 months later I held a small baby boy with big purple eyes. I instantly fell in love with him, Kushina adds. I bet Nianai was cute, Mito says. Kushina giggles with a soft look. I soon left the compound and people were shocked that I had a baby, but I held my head high and told the truth. Many accepted it, but quite a few cursed him as a taint on Minato's legacy. Minato dispelled that, but I knew it bothered him, she continues, but pauses and sighs. A son, but not his own, and as soon as I able to we tried for our own child and were blessed with 2 beautiful girls. Sochi was so happy too and would always fall asleep on my every growing tummy, but that terrible night came, having the Kyuubi ripped from me by the masked man and Minato sealing half of Kyuubi's chakra in you too and the soul with 1 tail's worth of chakra into Sochi, Kushina explains. In the aftermath Minato declared what he had done. Many who disliked Sochi became more vocal, saying because of him the Kyuubi got free, and many more called for his death and praised yours, Kushina adds. Naruko and Mito gasp in horror. They wanted to kill a 2-year-old child, Naruko says. Kushina sniffles with a nod. Minato tried to make the people to see reason and declared a law preventing harm with harsh consequences for the perpetrators, but they found loopholes with emotional abuse and neglect. I was so wrapped up in taking of a pair newborns I saw less of my own son. Thankfully Miko-chan and Gigi took care of him, but it all came to a head at the Kyuubi festival when you were 6. Sochi was attacked by civilians and shinobi. Luckily my student Shisho stopped them that day. I put my foot down and I begged Shishio to take him out the village and train him, she explains. I remember that day Nianai's eyes were always so bright, but that day they were sad and his smile looked so painful. Mito said. I was mad at him for going. Naruko whispers and Callie leaps in her lap. No mad now, Callie asks, and Naruko shakes her head. No, I'm just glad he's back, Naruko states. Mitsuomi enters the Hokage tower with a sigh. You need to tell him, Kyuubi chides, and he nods, making his way to Minato's office. His secretary sits at her desk as Mitsuomi walks up. Is Lord Hokage in? Mitsuomi asks. Yes, he's currently speaking with Sandaime-sama, the woman says, blushing. Mitsuomi moves his white bang. Can I see him? He asks, and the woman blinks. Oh, of course, she says. Mitsuomi nods gingerly and moves to knock twice. Come in, Minato shouts. Mitsuomi steps inside as the Sandaime has his pipe in his mouth on the sofa and Minato at his desk. What can I do for you, Mitsuomi? Minato asks. Well, I wanted to talk business, something that your shadows don't need to be privy of at the moment, Mitsuomi states. Minato's eyes narrow, but he taps his desk and the umbu vanish. What about? He questions. The snake, Mitsuomi simply says, and Hiruzen's eyes narrow this time. What about my wayward student? Hiruzen asks. Mitsuomi folds his arms with a rub of his head. He's planning an invasion with Suna, he replies, and both men's breath hitch. How valid is this information? Minato asks, regaining his composure. 100% confirmed. The snake tried to recruit me under my white storm guise. He sent several someones to intimidate me, Mitsuomi states. Hiruzen wearily sighs with a puff of his pipe. I take it you declined, he says. I sent back bodies, but one body proved useful, and said body is how I learned of the plot, Mitsuomi says, slightly smirking. But how can you be sure the person is relaying accurate information? Minato asks, but Mitsuomi taps his eye. This person is close to the snake, Mitsuomi replies. Why would Suna align with Orochimaru? Hiruzen asks. Mitsuomi pulls a cigarette from his pack. The current Wind Daimyo is a hedonistic bastard and has been sending missions meant for Suna here, and the snake is playing on that. IWA may hitch themselves to this invasion as well, he explains, sparking up. What of Kumo or Kiri? Minato asks, but Mitsuomi shrugs his shoulders. I'm on somewhat good term with the current Raikage, because of Yujito, and Kiri is dealing with a civil war, Mitsuomi replies. Minato, we should prepare discreetly as not alert Orochimaru or Danzo for that matter. I wouldn't put past him to use the chaos to usurp control, Hiruzen says and looks to Mitsuomi. And you'll help me get back into fighting shape, he adds. Mitsuomi smiles softly with a nod. Of course, he replies. Sandaime-sama, if it is alright with you, I'd like to speak to Mitsuomi alone, Minato asks. Hiruzen take a puff of his pipe as he rises from his seat. Of course, but please don't destroy the office, he says, patting Mitsuomi on the shoulder. Hiruzen closes the door as the room goes silent as surrogate son and father stare at one another. Mitsuomi, I wanted to say I'm sorry for the position I put you in concerning the chunin exams and everything, Minato says, breaking the silence. Mitsuomi took a slow drag and exhales smoke through his nose. Your apology is 16 years too late. As for the chunin exams, I made the choice to run solo, he says. I know that I just want to fix what happened between us, Minato says, but Mitsuomi scoffs. You can't fix it. You let Jiraiya and others get in your head that I'm the taint on your legacy. The villagers considered me the reason for the Kyuubi attack and my birth was the cause. Outside the mansion I was treated like a leper despite your stupid law. I used to see people who beat me on the street days later like nothing happened. Held the night of the Kyuubi festival when I was 8 had civilians and your shinobi trying to kill me, but what did you do? Nothing. I had to leave this place just to survive, leave my mom and my sisters for 10 fucking years, Mitsuomi rants. I put my faith in the people to see you and your sisters as the heroes you were, Minato says, but Mitsuomi scoffs once again. Well, you saw how that worked 16 years later and their grief and hate has yet to dissipate, but they worship Naruko and Mito, Mitsuomi shot. Hell, that night if you could have, would you have used me as a sacrifice to the Shinigami instead of yourself, Mitsuomi adds. Minato shoots from seat and slams his hands on the table. How can you even say that? He shouts, with a serious look. Mitsuomi closes the gap between them with the table as a barrier. I can, because can you say with 100% certainty that if given the choice would you have used my life as payment to the Shinigami instead of your own? He shouts. Purple met ocean blue in a contest of wills, but Minato falters. I thought so. That night was forever etched into my memory. I won't take your soul today, Minato Namikaze, but it will be mine in time. However, I look forward to what this little one will do. As he pointed his deathly fingers at me, Mitsuomi states. Minato falls back in his chair with a regretful look on his face. I was too naive it seems, but Mitsuomi, please give the people a chance. They can change, he says. Mitsuomi slams his fist on the table. You damn right you're naive. A chance? They had 10 years to change, but not even a month, and nothing has changed. Right back to glares and whispers. Hell, given the chance some of the shinobi would try to kill me, he shouts and heads for the door. Would you have told the village if my mom was still a Jinchuriki? Mitsuomi adds and slams the door. Minato slumps in his chair as he rubs his forehead. That went better than I thought, he muses. Mitsuomi stalks through the village, a scowl on his face and a cigarette burning in his mouth. Mitsuomi has his hood up to hide his scowling features. You should calm down, it's storming here, Kyuubi chides, watching the lightning storm from the church. Mitsuomi spat out his but with a sigh. Sorry, but he pissed me off, he thought. Mitsuomi continues through the village and finds a bar. What will you have, a man says, as Menma sits. Vodka and leave the bottle, Mitsuomi says, and tosses some money, with his hood up. The bartender places the bottle and fills the glass. Finally come home, Hokkaido, he says. Mitsuomi looks up from his drink to an older man with gray hair. Hiro, he says. Had been a while, Munchkin. Hiro jokes. Mitsuomi downs his drink and pours another. I'm a Munchkin no more, he says, and Hiro laughs. No kidding, how long you've been back, Hiro asks. Few weeks, and people know I'm back too, Mitsuomi replies, downing another glass. I heard it's nothing but the QB brat this or QB brat that, Hiro comments. Mitsuomi pours another drink as two jonin approach the bar. Double whiskey, one says. Triple rum for me, the other says. Hiro fixes their drinks as Mitsuomi downs his third. Seina, you've heard the demon has returned, the first jonin comments. A dirty look forms on Seina's face. Fucking monster, hasn't it ruined our lives enough, right, Mako, he sneers. Mako downs his whiskey. Yeah, Yandame-sama should have killed it years ago, he boasts. Another double old man, Mako says, but Hiro glares at the Mako. I don't like that talk in my bar, if say another word I'm tossing ya, Hiro says. Seina glares back, Hiro, but a sneer forms. I bet you're a demon lover, he says, but his eyes widen in horror. As a chilling cold blast ki fills the room and its source was next to them, knocking Mako from the chair. Mitsuomi pulls his hood down with slitted purple eyes and a blank look on his face. He is no demon lover, he's a good man, unlike trash like you, he coldly, hopping off the stool. 3 Umbu enter the bar and one of them was Nico. What is going on? She shouts. Mako shakes his finger at Mitsuomi. The demon tried to kill us. He shouts. Mitsuomi cancels his ki with a scoff. You're not worth the effort, he says, walking past the Umbu. Aren't you gonna arrest him? Seina shouts. Nico glares behind her mask. Hiro-san, did he attack them? She asks. Hiro folds his arms with a look to the jonin. No, but they broke the Yandame's law, he says, and both pale. I see, we will take them to Ibiki, Nico orders, and the 2 Umbu grab Seina and Mako, to vanish in a swirl of leaves. Mitsuomi arrives back at the Namake's estate, and finds his mother waiting. Can you escort a pretty lady on a walk? She says. Mitsuomi tilts his head with a look. Sure, where is she? He says, and dodges a chain. Kidding, he adds. The pair head towards the Hokage monument, but namely Minato's head. I used to bring you here as a baby, you use grab at the stars, Kushina muses. Mitsuomi chuckles as they shun Shin atop the head. I miss this, he says, with the big inhale of air. Mother and son take a seat, but said son lays his head in his mother's lap. I fought with him today, he muses. Oh God, you didn't kill Minato, Kushina asks, but Mitsuomi shakes his head. Gigi said the same thing, Mitsuomi says. Kushina softly giggles as she strokes his hair. Good, then you didn't ruin my evil plan, she says. Mitsuomi quirks an eyebrow as Kushina continues. Well, you're gonna be the Uzumaki head, Mito will be the Namake's head, and Naruko will be Hokage with Minato, Bachan, and I as her advisors, she notes. Wow, that is as diabolical as Gigi mobilizing the squirrels to combat, Mitsuomi says, and Kushina nods. I know, right, last time I was there I saw several squirrels marching, Kushina said. Mitsuomi softly laughs as does Kushina. I've missed you, Mom, he says, and Kushina kisses his forehead. I've missed you, Sochi, my precious boy, Kushina muses. Mother and son continue to watch the beautiful sunset, before returning home for a light dinner. Mitsuomi opts to take a shower as Conan, Kuratsuchi, and Yujito arrived with Anko. After a very soothing bath and bathing a certain little tiger, out he steps in boxer briefs and a towel on his head with a tiger in his arms. Geez, a voice comments. Mitsuomi lifts the towel enough and sees Anko without her coat and sandals on the bed. Where's the others, he asks. Anko stares at Mitsuomi's scars but blinks. With your sisters, she replies. Can I play with them, Callie asks and lets her down. Don't get too dirty, Mitsuomi says, closing the door and activating a privacy seal. He then slips on a pair of shorts and grabs a shirt. So what's up, Mitsuomi asks. Nothing, wanted see you and fuck you, Anko says, eyeing his shorts. Mitsuomi rubs his forehead and slicks back his bangs. My mom and sisters are in the house and no, he replies, slipping on the wife beater. Anko pouts slightly but smirks. That's the thrill of it, besides who doesn't want to sleep with the one they love, she says. Mitsuomi plops on his back and Anko straddles him on the bed. You love me, he says, and Anko touches the scar on his face. I do, but tell nobody, Anko shot. Mitsuomi snorts and pins his purple eyes on her pupilless brown orbs. I could be kicked out Konoha if I things go to shit during the chunin exams, he says. Anko runs her fingers down his neck and to his burns. I'll resign and follow you wherever, she says, reaching the hem of the shirt. Anko shifts back across his lower region and lifts the shirt. How you'd get this, she asks. I tangled with the Black Spider clan of Hot Water Country, Mitsuomi replies. Anko traces his abs with a stare. This one, she notes. Mitsuomi taps the scar under his eye. Fought Jashinus named Kyohei, he says, but softly groans. This one, Anko coos, rocking back and forth. Mitsuomi turns his head with a sigh. A proper naughty snake, he replies. Anko leans down, and turns his face to her own. Could be poison, I should suck it out, she purrs and prepares to rock his world. If we go through this and my mom walks in, Mitsuomi says, and a chill goes up Anko's spine. Why, you're right, Anko says, and Mitsuomi chuckles. Kid, I may have a way to get rid of your friends, Mark Kyubi says, and Mitsuomi furrows his brow, confusing Anko. How, Mitsuomi thought. My chakra should be able to erode that snake's mark. I want you to channel chakra to your mouth and bite the mark, Kyubi explains. What, Anko says, and Mitsuomi sighs. Kyuubi has a way to get rid of your mark, Mitsuomi says, and Anko's eyes widen. She wants to bite the mark with her chakra channel to my teeth, he adds. Anko sits up on his lap with thought in her brown eyes. Do it then, she says. We don't know if this will work, Mitsuomi says, and Anko punches his chest. And what if it does? You don't. How long I have wished to free of this burden, Anko says, her tone shaky. Mitsuomi sighs and sits up as he channels Kyuubi's chakra to his mouth. His eyes become red with black slits, and his canines more defined. Anko moves her mesh top to show her curse mark, and Mitsuomi bites down, causing her to grit her teeth and groan in pain. The mark sizzles from the infusion of corrosive chakra and burns the skin, but it fades as Mitsuomi lets go, collapsing onto his back. Anko pants heavily but looks to see the burned skin and faded curse mark, before tears start to run down her cheeks. Thank you, oh God, thank you, Anko whispers. Mitsuomi reaches up to caress her cheek and she leans into his touch. Don't thank me, I would do anything for someone I love, he says. Anko settles on top of him and Mitsuomi wraps his arms around her waist. Just you wait, when I get the chance I am going to rock your world, she says, and Mitsuomi chuckles. A few days later, Mitsuomi along with Conan, Kuratsuchi, Yujito, Naruko, Mito and Kushina were heading to hospital for his treatment session. Kushina immediately went into mother hen mode, but Mitsuomi assured her the worst was over, but she insisted on coming. The group arrive and head upstairs where Tsunade was waiting in a large exam room. Yujito, Kuratsuchi, Kali and Kushina wait in the observation area as the others head for the room. Shizen greets them with a bow. Welcome home, little bro, she says. Hello, big sis, Mitsuomi replies, bowing as well and sharing a quick hug. Inside, Tsunade has 4 students and a few doctors. Shockingly, one was Sakura, and rounding out the group was Ino Yamanaka, Hana Inuzuka and Hinata Hyuga. Mitsuomi greets each, but Sakura shot him a glare. Mitsuomi, remove your shirt and bandages, then we'll get started with the session, Tsunade says. Mitsuomi slowly nods as he pulls off the shirt, handing it to Naruko, and removing the bandages into a pile. Ino was blushing at Mitsuomi's body but pales, as does Sakura and a few doctors. Mitsuomi-san, how did happen, Hinata says, and turns to the young Hyuga heir. I was defending the granddaughter of the hot water daimyo from a band of shinobi, Mitsuomi explains, hopping on the table. Tsunade clears her throat to garner everyone's attention. As you can see, our patient Mitsuomi has suffered severe acidic burns to his entire left arm and side, she explains. The injuries were caused by a jutsu called Acid Storm. They were treated by the young lady to Mitsuomi's right, and I'll let her explain further, Tsunade states. Conan steps forward with a bow. Thank you, Tsunade-sama. The caster of the jutsu possessed the Kekii Genkai for the vapor release. Luckily, I was able to treat him in time with clean water and a salve I made from various flowers, but I also feared the acid seeped into his muscle tissue, but that's beyond my skill level, she explains. That's why we're here today. The Mednin program is essential to teams today to cut down casualties and allow shinobi to broaden their horizons, Tsunade explains. Tsunade then turns Mitsuomi with an apologetic look. I bet you're like the twins and sedatives would be useless, so clench your teeth, she says. Mitsuomi furrows his brow but got his answer as Tsunade punches him in the face, rendering him unconscious on the table. Naruko stifles a laugh as Tsunade clears her throat again. Now, as I was saying, I've already performed the mystic palm technique and found that some acid has seeped into his muscle tissue, so today we'll extract the acid residue and heal the internal injuries, she explains. Shizen wheels in a cart with several tubs of liquid as Tsunade secures Menma to the table. Now Conan, since you did first aid and aftercare, I'll show you the technique and allow you to try, Tsunade says, and Conan nods. Mito and the others gather on Mitsuomi's right side. The name of this jutsu is called Seiken Chushitsu no Jutsu. The solution next to me will apply directly to his body and slowly draw out the acidic residues, Tsunade explains. Tsunade places her hand in one of the tubs and pulls contents into her hand with chakra. Tsunade then places the solution on Mitsuomi's side and slowly pushes it inside with her free hand. Now, she says, and pulls with her free hand, pushes with her occupied hand. Everyone gasps as the solution exits with the dark yellow substance within as Tsunade drops it into an empty tub. Is that the acid, Hinata asks? It is. Once we finish he'll have improved motor function. Conan, were there moments of twitches or jerky movements after the attack, Tsunade states. Conan slowly nods as she looks down at Mitsuomi. Yes, it persisted for about a month and slowly went away, but he often complained of stiffness, she explains. I see. Well, Conan, let's get started on his arms, Tsunade states, and explains how to grasp the solution. Clench my teeth, Mitsuomi says, and sits up but finds himself in his mindscape. Of course sedatives don't work, he muses. Kyuubi was watching from an elevated throne. Your bachan packs quite the wallop, she muses. Mitsuomi rubs his cheek with a shake of his head. No kidding, I'm going spar in the arena until I wake up, he says, kipping up. I'll provide you some entertainment, Black Rock or Dead Master, Kyuubi asks. Mitsuomi glances back as he opens the church doors. Both, he says. The landscape outside the church was a world of night with a huge full moon and lightning dancing in the sky. Mitsuomi took the intricate paths towards the arena littered in chains, and at the center stood 2 women. The first was a pale girl with long black hair and twin tails, blue eyes but one glowing, and dressed in boots with white tips, black shorts and bra with a long black coat and a white star printed on the back. The second was pale as well in a gothic black dress and glowing green eyes and claw-like fingers and horns. Mitsuomi enters the arena as his Dato swords appear at his sides in their sheaths. Let's go, he shouts, activating his Sharingan. DM raises her hand as a black scythe appears with 2 floating skulls with glowing green eyes. BRS raises her arm as a cannon forms around the arm and her eye glows more, leaving a streak of blue. Music, Black Rock Shooter Battle of BRS. Mitsuomi sprints forward as BRS points her cannon to open fire. Using Shikuchi he dodges the blue blast. DM shoots forward with a leap to meet Mitsuomi, but he blocks and counters with his trick, narrowly dodging her skulls in the process. DM slams her scythe into the ground to send a wave of energy, but Mitsuomi drives his lightning-infused sword in the fissure negating it. BRS turns her cannon into a sword from behind with a downward swing but Mitsuomi blocks with his joker, his Sharingan Tomos spinning wildly. One skull slams into Mitsuomi as BRS kicks back and DM gives an echoing titter, but her eyes widen as Mitsuomi slashes the skull in half. Raiton, Byakurai Mitsuomi shouts, taking out the other with a blast of pale lightning. DM shoots forward with a pressing attack as BRS changes back to her cannon and charges a blast. Mitsuomi heaves DM back and leaps to dodge as the blast fires. Raiton Kenjutsu, White Lightning Slash he shouts, as lightning erupts from his swords and cleaves the blast in half. Mitsuomi shoots from the smoke with his trick running through BRS and she shatters into blue glass. Mitsuomi sheathes his joker as DM shoots forward into a furious rush as sparks erupt from their clashes. Soon the scythe flings into pieces but DM tosses the piece away with a lick of her fingers. DM leaps as chains erupt from her back, forcing him to dodge with fervent speed and her giving chase along the chains. Mitsuomi jerks as a chain snags his leg and he throws a block to block DM's heel but more chains ensnare him and lift him high. DM's echoing titter fills the arena but lightning erupts from Mitsuomi's body and through the chains, breaking him free and he raises his trick. White lightning surges around and out of the white dado. Raiton Kenjutsu, Thunderbolt Cut Mitsuomi shouts, swing down and carving a gash through the ground and DM. Clapping soon echoes as QB enters the arena. Impressive kit, your 6 dances of Raiton are quite the sight. Dragon Strike, Thunderbolt Cut, White Lightning Slash, still 3 more. To show me, she comments and Mitsuomi was about to comment but felt the pull of awakening. Song ends. Mitsuomi slowly awoke in a private room, his arm once again bandaged and Kali on his chest. Mitsuomi scratches behind her ear and the little tiger purrs. Nisan awake, she asks. The other occupant stirs as Kushina rushes to his bedside. Sochi, she says. Mitsuomi sits up with a groan. Where is everyone, he asks. Kakashi took them on a D-rank mission and Conan is resting from chakra overuse. She did really well, Kushina explains. The door opens as Yujito and Kuratsuchi step in with Anko. Finally up, slacker, or did I wear you out last night? Anko shot. Mitsuomi playfully glares and tosses the covers. TMI in front of my mom, he says, rotating his arm. Mitsuomi grabs his shirt and slips it on as Yujito picks up Kali. I'll take you to Conan, she says. I'll head to tower and see Minato, Kushina said, as they file out and Anko heads back to the TI department. So Conan wore herself out, Mitsuomi asks. Yujito strokes Kali's fur. Yeah, but she was amazing. Your grandmother lives up to her skill and in teaching each student got a chance, but that pink monkey refused and Hana was checking you out but she knew who you belonged to, she explains. To us, but hey, the more the merrier, Kuratsuchi comments. Mitsuomi snorts and softly opens the resting room, his angel sleeping in a cot. Kali jumps down and then jumps into the cot to snuggle. Nice and warm, she purrs. Conan slowly stirs as Mitsuomi kneels. I hear I owe you, he says. It was nothing but I expect your famous massages, Conan says and snuggles Kali. Now let me sleep, she says. Mitsuomi kisses her temple and quietly steps out. While I'm here I can visit Izumi, he says. Who's Izumi? Yujito insinuates. Mitsuomi scoffs to pocket his hands. Survivor of the Uchiha massacre like Mikoto Basin and her son, she's been in a coma ever since a high-level genjutsu, he explains. The trio reached a long-term care wing and to Izumi's room. Inside was a young woman with long brown hair. Itachi did this, Yujito asks and Mitsuomi nods. Yeah, and to me it proves Itachi didn't snap or test himself. Izumi loves him, and he loves her, Mitsuomi replies. Yujito wraps her arms around him from behind as Kuratsuchi takes his bandaged hand. When we fight I'll know the truth, Mitsuomi whispers. Mitsuomi, Kuratsuchi and Yujito soon leave and head to the roof, with him perching himself on the water tower and Yujito in his lap. Kuratsuchi stands with her arms folded as the three sit in silence. I'm curious if I asked you to return to Kumo, would you? Mitsuomi asks. Yujito looks at the sky but shakes her head. Though I would miss a few people, my place is wherever you go. You are my mate as well as Conan and Kuratsuchi too, plus I like your mom and sisters, she replies. Well spoken, kitten, Matatabi said. Mitsuomi holds Yujito closer with his face in the crook of her neck. So how's my other half been doing, he muses. He never shuts up, always on this rant about original this or original that, Kuratsuchi says, taking a seat next to him. Yujito scoffs with a look on her face. Right mouthy, he's guarding Koiki-sama and taking the odd job to keep the fame, she says, and Mitsuomi softly grunts. Thanks, Nikoheim Terra, Mitsuomi says, and Yujito giggles. You're welcome, and I expect a head pat for doing good, Yujito says, taking his hand patting her head. Mitsuomi starts to hum as Yujito snuggles closer and Kuratsuchi leans into his shoulder. And I know I'm not the first to have come here. Someone told me you can help me with so many layers, he muses. In a village past the mountains of your world, someone told her death was coming soon to all of us, Yujito and Kuratsuchi continue. Mikoto appears via a flame shunshin. How's Conan, she shouts. She's resting in one of the room, Memma replies, and all three hop down. Any missions worth going on, he asks. Mikoto shakes her head with a sigh. Only D ranks and Kakashi took the last C rank, she replies. Yujito Tsuke says. Mitsuomi sighs. Well, I guess we can try another time, he says. A week later, Mitsuomi skids to a halt but leaps back as he dodges Yujito's flaming Mizumi, and quickly breaks left to dodge Conan's paper shuriken, then skyward to dodge Kuratsuchi's earth spears. Suetun, Mizurapa, Conan thought, firing a blast of water. Mitsuomi backpedals in a weave of signs to Tiger, Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, he thought, countering. Yujito races through the steam generated with her nails extended, but Mitsuomi blocks with his bracer. Still no joke or trick, she shot. Mitsuomi and Yujito kick back, but he closes the gap with his palm on her belly. Nope, he says, with a slight twitch, and Yujito flies back. I hate your bullet, Yujito hisses. Mitsuomi titters and ducks under a high roundhouse from Kuratsuchi and dodges Conan's water whips, however suddenly chains and snare him from behind. Yujito, Kuratsuchi and Conan spy Mito and Naruko, but the blonde was rushing Mitsuomi. A spiraling orb forms in her hand as Naruko near him. Rasengan, she shouts, but Mitsuomi shifts enough that his bracer took the brunt. Mitsuomi skids to a halt with a shake of his arm. Rasengan has signatures of the Yondaime Hokage and Jiraiya of the Sannin, he says, places his hand on his hips. Have you added an elemental affinity? Mitsuomi asks. Not yet, but Mom says I tried to add futon, Naruko replies and suddenly holds up her bulb. Plus I finished this now, can you teach me a jutsu, she adds. Naruko powers the bulb for 10 continuous minutes as Mitsuomi took a thinking pose. Alright, I'll teach you too since you're my kawaii sister, and Mito, I'll teach you too, Suetun jutsu I know, he says. Naruko pumps her fist as Mito blushes. Thanks, Ni and I, Mitsu and I both say. Okay, the first is for Naruko, Mitsuomi says and points his left index and middle finger. First channel right-un into these fingers, then call out right-un. Byakurai, he adds. A stream of pale lightning shoots from the digits. It'll take some practice, too much, and it backfires, or too little and it fizzles out, Mitsuomi explains. The second is actually for both of you as a combination jutsu, Mitsuomi explains. Mitsuomi starts to weave signs and stops at Tiger, Suetun, Sujin Hiki, he says, and weaves several more signs, right-un. Kangeki ha, he adds. The lightning rides along the wave of water. Now the last you've both seen, Kirigakyu no jutsu, Mitsuomi says, creating the thick mist. Mitsuomi then claps his hands. 100 clones each, 25 to practice each jutsu, he says, creating 4 clones of his own. The 4 took the 25 each and began the session. That's Darui's combination jutsu, Yujito notes. Mitsuomi takes a seat on the grass. Yeah, I may have swiped it from him, he muses. Who's Darui, Naruko says, as all of them take a seat. Mitsuomi falls on his back as Kali pounces on his chest, and Yujito shakes her head. Darui is the right-hand man of the current Raikage, and was trained by the former Raikage, dubbing him Darui the Black Lightning, she explains. Black Lightning, Mito questions. Mitsuomi sparks up a cigarette, and blows smoke for Kali to swat. It was the specialty of the Sandaime Raikage, it has more penetrating power than conventional right-un, he says, and channels his Shiro Kaminari. Mitsu and I, why is your right-un white, Naruko asks. Mitsuomi zaps Kali and she growls but paws at the hand. Dunno, it's always like this, he says. Big brother Liger says. Ni-san is weirdo, Kali says, and Kuratsuchi snorts. Mitsuomi makes a face. Oh really, he says, and kips up with Kali. Mitsuomi pricks his finger, and weaves several signs. Kuchios no jutsu, he shouts. Everyone steps back as a puff of smoke fills the field and a few bolts of lightning. For thousands of years I have lain dormant, who dares disturb my slumber? A voice booms. A full-grown Siberian tiger with blue fur emerges with glowing red eyes. Oh, it's you, explain, he says. Big brother calls Ni-san a weirdo, Mitsuomi says, Kali on his head. Liger stares at Kali and then to Mitsuomi. And your point, you are a weird, he replies, but bumps his head into him. But you're a cool weird, he adds. Mitsuomi snorts and ruffles Liger's blue fur. So are you, he says, and Liger recoils. How dare you? Liger shouts and dispels. Conan and Mito hold their laughter, but Yujito, Kuratsuchi and Naruko were outright laughing as Mitsuomi stood with an amused but angered look. Cheeky bastard, Mitsuomi mutters and pulls Kali from his head. The next few hours were trial and error by the twins as Mitsuomi gives tips. Eventually Mikoto and Kushina found them. You're a good teacher, Sochi, will you take a team when you eventually make Jonin, Kushina asks. Mitsuomi rubs his head with a drag and exhale. Doubt it, I'll probably go the Hunter-nin route with Konan, Kuro, and Yugi, he replies. That's a shame, Kushina is right, you would make a good teacher, Mikoto comments. Mitsuomi took a thinking pose, but suddenly an Umbu drops down, dressed in a black and hooded cloak with monkey mask. Forgive my intrusion, but Sandaime-sama has requested Mitsuomi Kiryu for a mission discussed with him previously, the Umbu states. Kushina looks to her son. Gigi wants me to help him get in shape, Mitsuomi explains. How long will you be gone, Kushina asks, and Mitsuomi rubs his chin. Thought. He will return in time for the chunin exams, the Umbu answers. Naruko and Mito immediately hug their brother. I'll be back before you know it, he says. Yujito, Kuratsuchi and Conan give him a kiss and Kushina gives him a hug and kiss. Mitsuomi summons his grey cloak and vanishes with the Umbu. Where to, Gigi, he asks. The Umbu removes their masks to reveal Horizon. We'll be going after numerous bandit camps, but publicly call me Saru, he says, and Mitsuomi salutes with the Gatak Saru. Chunin exam round 1. Team 7 head for room 301 after Sasuke boasts about the Genjutsu but was humbled by Rock Lee of Team 9 in a fight. The twins were worried for their big brother, but Kuratsuchi, Conan, Yujito and their mother assure them he would be okay after not seeing him since he left with the Umbu. Sasuke throws open the door, and they were hit by some Ki as they enter. before Ino glomps Sasuke and Sakura starts arguing with her. Shikamaru mutters troublesome as Choji eats chips, while Kiba boasts all the rookies were in the exams. Naruko looks around the room and spy at least 2 teams from Kumo and single teams from Suna, Iwa and Kiri including various other villages. Mito taps her shoulder and points as they see their brother leaning on a wall, dressed in his black and white cargos with black combat boots. Its tips and heels were white. A form-fitting long-sleeve blue shirt, but the left sleeve missing with the Uzumaki swirls on the upper sleeve. His left arm bandaged and bracer on top of that with black gloves. The index and middle fingers were maroon. A black sleeveless and high-collar jacket having white design similar to lightning, his hitai around his neck. Mitsuomi approaches as Kabuto was talking to the other rookies about his ninja cards. I want to know about Rock Lee, Gaara, Sabaku and Mitsuomi. Uzumaki, Sasuke said. Kabuto adjusts his glasses. Oh, so you know their names. Let's see. Rock Lee has been a genin for a year. Teammates Neji, Hyuga and Tenten Higurashi. 40 D rank missions, 5 C rank missions and incapable of ninjutsu and genjutsu but excels at taijutsu. Gaara Sabaka 50 D rank, 20 C rank and 5 B rank and has never been injured. Lastly Mitsuomi Uzumaki. Haad. There's nothing on him, Kabuto said. Mitsuomi pats Kabuto on the back of his neck. Why not try Mitsuomi Kiryu, he says. Oh, here it is, odd again with 1 C rank and taking the exams solo, Kabuto states. The other rookies and some of the others murmur. Who is this guy, Kiba says. Our older brother, Kiba, Mito says. The Odo team was about to attack but all 3 halt as Mitsuomi looks back with the coldest eyes. Suddenly a man with several scars on his face dressed in gray and black trench coat appears. Alright you maggots, sit down and let's commence the first part of the chunin exams, he shouts, and everyone takes their seats. My name is Ibiki Marino and the first part of this exam is a written test. It's 9 questions with the 10th given towards the end. Cheating is not allowed. If you are caught you lose 10 points, get caught 3 times and you're out with your whole team, Ibiki states, and some protest. Tough shit, now begin, he shot. Mitsuomi sits on the last row next to an aimed shinobi and few other shinobi as his eyes drift around the room. No cheating, it's obvious they want you to QB comments. More than likely, Mitsuomi thought, and saw the aim was finished. Mitsuomi raises his hand and punches the shinobi in the jaw and takes his paper. Hey, that's cheating, Ibiki shouts. Mitsuomi shrugs his shoulder and writes his name on the paper. Only one, still got 2 chances, Proctor, he says. Ibiki glares at Mitsuomi but smirks. Alright, I'll give you that one, Ibiki says. Time ticks down as several teams were booted. Alright, the 10th question, Ibiki says and explains it, causing a few more to drop out. Anyone else, Ibiki says, and no one moves? Well, you all pass, he adds and shows his scars. Suddenly the window shatters as a sign is pinned to the wall and Anko appears. Wow, Ibiki, this many, you must be slipping, she says. Maybe a good crop this year and you're early again, Ibiki said, but Anko scoffs. Alright, follow me to stage 2 training ground 44, Anko says and leaps out once again. About 20 minutes later all the genin were gathered at the main gate of the Forest of Death. Welcome kiddies to my playground, training ground 44, or as I called it, the Forest of Death, Anko shouts. Now for the second phase of the exams, you kiddies have 5 days to traverse the forest to the tower in the center with both of these scrolls, Anko says and holds the scroll. One is the Heaven Scroll and the other is the Earth Scroll. You need both to enter the tower, and do not open until then, she adds. Several genin protest about food and such but Anko spies Kiba not paying attention. Mitsuomi watches as Anko slice open Kiba's cheek with her kunai and a tall kusanin brings it to her but his eyes narrow. Kid? Kyubi said. Mitsuomi mentally nods as he approaches the tent to get his scroll. Here you go, rookie, Anko says, but Mitsuomi leans closer. I need a favor, go to my mom and tell her that there is a snake hidden in the grass, Mitsuomi whispers and clips his eyes to her shoulder. Anko freezes and her eyes widen but looks into his purple eyes. Don't be reckless, go to my mom, Mitsuomi says and Anko slowly nods. Well, good luck and try not to die, Anko shouts. Mitsuomi snorts and exits the tent to reach his designated gate to enter the forest. Noticing the 2 Kumo teams were at this gate as well as the aim he punched out and his team. Excess fucking drama, Mitsuomi thought, slipping the Earth Scroll in his cargo pocket. Mitsuomi slips into a cat-like runner stance. Alright, I'll put some distance between us and wait for the ambush, he thought, and the buzzer sounds. The gate opens and all the teams launch through the gate, but the shocker was Mitsuomi almost inhuman running speed as he seems move like lightning. Mitsuomi makes a reinforced kage bunch in to shadow his sisters as he comes to a halt in a clearing. Suddenly 3 Kumo shinobi exit from the trees in front of Mitsuomi, all dressed in typical Kumo garb with 2 men and 1 woman. The woman steps forward with a cold and condescending look. Where is the nibby, she said. Wow, straight to the point, but alas, you came for nothing. I killed that pesky cat, Mitsuomi said. The woman's eyes narrow as the 2 men step forward. A lie, her scent is all over you, one says. Mitsuomi blinks and sniffs his shirt. I did take a shower this morning, he muses. You are to hand over the nibby so that it may be re-educated, the other man says. Mitsuomi's purple eyes narrow as the AIM team emerges from the forest. Time to pay for that punch, the one shouts. Mitsuomi pulls on his gloves with his eyes locked on the Kumo shinobi. You stepped into some deep shit, kid. These Kumonin are jonin level, so if you value your life, walk away, he states, but it fell on deaf ears as the Kumo males cut down the 3 AIM shinobi. Now why did have go and do a thing like that, Mitsuomi says, and both scoff. The weak don't get pick how they die, right, Hori, one says. Hori nods with a smirk. Right, Dori Tenya, let's kill this fool and find the Hyuga heir or the Namikaze heiresses. The council can use them for breeding purposes, Hori says. A shadow falls over Mitsuomi's face that doesn't go unnoticed by Tenya. Care to repeat that, Mitsuomi said. Hori was about to repeat, but he was suddenly pinned to a tree with a sword through his heart, and lightning skating from the blade. Tenya and Dori were wide-eyed as Mitsuomi pulls his sword from Hori's lifeless corpse. I never saw him move. Impossible? She thought. Hori? Dori shouts and charges Menma. Itoriu, Hekareki, Mitsuomi says, appearing behind Dori with his sword crackling. The Kumo shinobi turns slightly, but only his upper half, Dori says. Mitsuomi never took his eyes off Tenya. Now I know, I heard your name. Yujito said you were one of her staunchest tormentors, he coldly said. Tenya seizes and turns to run, but Mitsuomi appears in front of her with his sword erupting with white lightning. Right on Kenjutsu. Dragon Moon Strike, he shouts and swings down. Tenya screams in silence as she was slashed in 6 places and her limbs, torso and head fell to the ground. Kyubi shifts on her throne. That makes 4, she muses. Team 7 have encountered much in their brief time in the Forest of Death. First encountering a shape-shifting team from AIM but managed to defeat the team. Next, Naruko was separated from her team by a huge blast of wind, leaving the rest of her team at the mercy of the suddenly appearing Kusanine. After a brief skirmish, the Grassnine revealed herself as Orochimaru. Another skirmish ensues as Sasuke finds his resolve, but it was for naught. Naruko rejoins the fight, but Orochimaru toys with her and dispatches the blonde with a strange seal. Mito caught her twin before she fell to the forest floor, but it allows Orochimaru to extend his neck and bite Sasuke on the neck. Sasuke cries out in pain as 3 Tomomark forms. Kakuka, seek me out if you want true power, Orochimaru says, but his brow furrows. Orochimaru turns and sees Mitsuomi standing on a higher branch, hands in his pockets and a blank look of cold. Mitsu and I, Mito shouts. Orochimaru chuckles darkly as Mitsuomi stares. Kakuka, the true Kyubi child, he sneers. Mitsuomi sees Naruko being held by Mito. I'll teach you what it means to lay hands upon my family, he says. White lightning surges around Mitsuomi's body and spikes his hair as he lands facing Orochimaru. Kilo is Godspeed. Music, Senna Bleach Ost. Mitsuomi stalks forward but vanishes and shocks everyone. Is that the right no Yoroi, Orochimaru thought, but wails in shock as Mitsuomi appears with a palm strike to the gut. Lightning erupts through the snake Sanin's body as Mitsuomi slams a right counter as Orochimaru swings. Mitsuomi slams a Superman punch into a body blow, connecting with a spinning roundhouse kick. The conscious members of Team 7 were in shock as Mitsuomi blitzes around Orochimaru, frustrating the Sannin. How? This isn't like the Reikage, it's too concentrated, Orochimaru thought. Mitsuomi appears in front with his arms apart. Right on Noagi, counter shock, he shouts, shooting his thumbs out. Orochimaru wails in agony as he flies back with blood spurting from his mouth. Mitsuomi moves to finish off Orochimaru, but his lightning suddenly dispels. Shit, Mitsuomi thought, staggering and dropping to one knee. Nianai? Mito shouts, but Mitsuomi raises his hand. Mito, take them and go, I'll hold him off, Mitsuomi shouts. Orochimaru struggles to his feet as his mouth opens wide as his new self slithers out. Now, Mito! Mitsuomi shouts. Sakura grabs Sasuke and Mito, her sister, as Orochimaru glares at Mitsuomi. Kakuka, quite the jutsu, he says. Mitsuomi slowly rises with a smirk. I'm full of surprises, but he says, but rests lost as Orochimaru runs him through with the sword of Kusanagi. Mitsuomi spits a stream of blood but grabs the blade. I delayed you enough, my mother is coming, he sneers. Orochimaru pulls the sword with a glare and sinks into the ground. Mitsuomi falls to his knees with a smile. Well, that was a good test of Shinsaku, the boss will be pleased, he muses, dispelling. The real Mitsuomi comes to a halt and a smirk forms, but a scowl follows. Excellent test, but you'll get yours, Snake, he thought. Continuing on. Song ends. Mito and Sakura manage to find a hollowed-out tree for Naruko and Sasuke to rest. Sasuke was sweating profusely as Sakura was blubbering over him. Unbeknownst to Team 7, they were being watched by the lone team from Oto. The first was the lone female of the group with long black hair, a pale green vest somewhat similar to a flak jacket, and snake-patterned pants with a scarf. The second had only his eye visible of his bandaged head, wearing a large poncho with long sleeves, a snake-patterned scarf around his neck, a straw raincoat protruding from the back of his scarf. The last had spiky black hair clothed in a beige shirt with 2 black stripes and 3 prints of the kanji for death, and gray pants. Is that them, kin? The bandaged one asks, and she nods. Yes, Dosu, and the Uchiha has been marked by Orochimaru-sama, kin notes. The third member named Zaka stares at Mito with lust in his eyes. The redhead is mine, he says, as they vanish. Mito lifts Naruko's shirt and channels chakra to her sister's seal, but her eyes widen as another seal supersedes the original. Sasuke-kun, Sasuke-kun, Sakura whines. Suddenly 3 chakra signatures make themselves known, causing both to exit the cave, or rather Mito exits the cave. The 3 Oto shinobi encircle Mito with the tree at her back, hand over the Uchiha Dosu states. Mito pulls 2 kunai in a reverse grips. Sakura, I need you to back me up, she shouts, but Sakura was cowering in the tree. Focus on us, tree bitch, Sakura shouts, firing a tight blast of wind. Mito breaks right, but she quickly blocks a kunai from Kin and her chains blocks Dosu. The bandaged shinobi reveals his arm covered by a cylinder, melody arm. First song, he says, hitting the chains. Mito chokes back a scream as pain erupts throughout her body. What is this? She thought. Decapitating airwaves, Sakura shouts. Mito digs her chains into the dirt but falls to her knees. Sakura, help me. She shouts but again falls on deaf ears. Kin approaches and jerks Mito by the hair to look her in the eye. That bitch is no kunoichi, look at her hair, she sneers, kneeing Mito in the face. Mito clutches her bleeding nose and dodges Kin's sandal, but Dosa's shoulder blocks her from behind. Melody arm, second song, Dosa said, hitting Mito's back. Sakura kicks Mito in the ribs as she collapses, and another two for good measure. Mito tries to summon her Biju chakra, but her body was still reeling from both sound attacks. Kin grabs Mito by the hair once again, but Mito slams her palms into Kin's chest. Suddenly 2 chains erupt from Kin's back. Kin staggers back with wide and shocked eyes as she falls to draw her last breaths. Mito uses the momentary shock to situate herself back by tree. You bitch! Zaku shouts and fires another decapitating airwaves. Mito moves left to avoid it. Suetun, Mizurapa, she shouts. Zaku and Dosa dodge, but Zaku fires another airwave on the run. The blast clips Mito, but she remains vertical. Melody arm, third song, Dosa shouts, releasing a wide blast of sound. Mito clutches her ears in pain, as does Sakura, but the tree provided enough damper. Mito falls to the ground with ringing in her ears as Zaku stalks forward with a lecherous grin. I'm gonna make you my bitch, he sneers. How about I make you my bitch, a voice coldly says. Zaku turns to a punch to face, and sending him flopping back as Dosa gasps. Mito's eyes widen and tears up. Nianai, she shouts. Zaku rubs his sword jaw as Mitsuomi stood in front of Mito. Who the hell are you? Zaku shouts. Mitsuomi fully faces Zaku. Like the snake, I'll teach you what it means to lay hands on my family, he says. Dosa's eye narrows but widen at the tone. It can't be him, he thought. Zaku raises his hands to fire his decapitating airwaves, but Mitsuomi flashes in front of Zaku with a right uppercut into a chopping downward left. Dosa shins behind Mitsuomi with his melody arm high, but suddenly there was a flash, and the arm falls to the ground. Dosa cries out in agony and clutches his stump but freezes as Mitsuomi looms over him. Begone, he hisses. Dosa tosses his scroll at Mitsuomi's feet and rushes to Zaku as they retreat into the forest. Mitsuomi dispels his sword and turns to sister. You alright, he asks, concerned. I'll live, thank you for saving us, Mito says. Mitsuomi looks around with a concerned look. Where's Naruko and your team, he says. Mito was about to point to the hollowed-out tree, but both were hit with a foul and dark chakra as Sasuke had awakened. To be continued. See Chai. Music, Naruto Shippuden OST, Sasuke's Ninja Way. Mitsuomi gets in front of Mito as Sasuke steps out the hollow tree with a purple flame-like aura surrounding him and black marks dotting his skin. Sasuke admires his new power. Yes, with this power I'll kill Itachi, he thought, but then saw Mitsuomi. And who better to test it against other than you, he shouts. In the trees, Team 10 were watching in shock. What's wrong with Sasuke-kun, Ino says, with concern. Shikamaru stares with calculating eyes as Sasuke shoots towards Mitsuomi. Mendokusia, I wish I knew, he says. Die. Sasuke howls, but Mitsuomi dodges his wild swing. Mito stays rooted in place as her brother nimbly dodges Sasuke. Sasuke Kun? Sakura screeches, but Mito trips her. What are you doing? Sakura shouts but freezes as Mito leaks her ki. Katan, Gokaki no Jutsu, Sasuke bellows, firing a blast of flames. Mitsuomi spams a set of signs and inhales deeply. Suetun, Tepidama, he thought, firing a blast of water. A wall of steam forms and Sasuke growls in frustration. Face me, he shouts. Mitsuomi shoots from the steam a punishing left, staggering Sasuke, and a right puts him on the ground. Sasuke staggers to his feet, but his curse mark recedes and he passes out. Song ends. Sasuke-kun, Sakura cries and rushes to him, but Mitsuomi knocks her on her rear. You're a disgrace of a kunoichi, Mitsuomi shouts. Sakura flinches at Mitsuomi's tone but crawls to Sasuke. And you can stop being spectators, he shouts, going check on Naruko. Team 10 drops down as Ino rushes to Sasuke as Choji and Shikamaru eyes Mitsuomi. He's definitely no ordinary genin, he thought. Mitsuomi kneels next to Naruko as Mito heals her own wounds. What happened, he asks. Orochimaru hit her with so strange seal, Mito replies. Mitsuomi rubs under his chin, more than likely the Gojo Fuin, he thought, and removes his right glove. Mito lift her shirt, he says, as chakra coats his fingers. Gojo Kaien, Mitsuomi says, ramming his fingers into the seal. Naruko lurches as the seal over her trigram seal vanishes. Slowly her eyes and she sees her siblings. Mito helps Naruko sit up as Mitsuomi exits the tree. Listen up, it'll be safer to travel as group. I've got extra scrolls if you need it, take it, and let's be off, he shouts. What about Sasuke-kun? Ino and Sakura said, but Mitsuomi glares. What about him? Mitsuomi shot. Ino and Sakura lift Sasuke up as Naruko rides piggyback with her brother. Mitsuomi makes 6 clones to watch their perimeter, and a few tigers join as they make their way to the tower. Mitsuomi keeps a fast pace much to their protest, but he wanted to make it to the tower quickly. An hour later several Mitsuomi clones were carrying Team 10 and 7 except for Mito as they reached the tower. Deducing the riddle, the group was congratulated by Irika. Kakashi came and took Sasuke off as Mitsuomi talks to Irika. Are we the first, he asks. The Suna team, Bikya, Anko says, appearing from nowhere. Mitsuomi shifts Naruko as she has fallen asleep. Whatever, follow me, he says, and Anko with Mito follow. Did mom find the snake, he asks. No, the bastard slipped off, Anko says, but a smirk forms on Mitsuomi's face. He'll get his soon, Mitsuomi thought, finding a room. Mitsuomi places Naruko on the bed as Mito cleans herself up. I'll be back with some food, he says, as Anko follows him out. Mito looked beat up, Anko said, and a slight scowl forms on his face. The Odo team, but she managed to kill one before I got there, Mitsuomi says. Anko and Mitsuomi find the commissary to pick up some food for the twins. I'll see you later, important jonin work, she croons. Mitsuomi picks out some food when a surge KIF hits him from behind, placing the food down and pocketing his hands. Mitsuomi turns to the raccoon-eyed Gaara with a nonchalant look on his face. Do you want something, Tanuki, he says. Mother desires your blood, Gaara says. Mitsuomi sparks up a cigarette with a drag and exhale. Yeah, well, I'll fry ya if you try, he says. The tension starts to rise as Mitsuomi and Gaara stare each other down. Gaara, stand down, a gruff voice says. Mitsuomi spies Gaara's jonin sensei as Gaara glares at the man, but he leaves via San Shunshin. Mitsuomi picks up his food with a look to the man. Keep your pet on a leash or he'll get a shock of a lifetime, he says, and heads off. Mitsuomi made it back to the room as Naruko was awake and Mito was tending to her. Feeling better, he asks, closing the door. Yeah, Mitsu and I, Naruko says, and takes some sandwiches. That's good if Mom, Mitsuomi says, moving towards the door. However, no sooner than he said it, the door smacks him in the face as Kushina rushes in with Mikoto in tow. Naruko fought in vain from her mother's mother hen mode as Mito and Mikoto check on Mitsuomi. Mom, you hit Mitsu and I with the door, Naruko says. Kushina gasps and sees her sprawled out son. I should watch my big mouth, Mitsuomi says. Sorry, Sochi, Kushina says, but Mitsuomi waves his hand. It's okay, I'm going smoke, Mitsuomi says. Congratulations on passing the first round, Mikoto says. Mitsuomi smiles and looks back. Only one more to go, he says, and steps out. Mitsuomi heads back to the commissary and spots another team, and it was another from Kumo. The first was a dark-skinned boy, wearing a dark outfit consisting of an overlong shirt with a hood, with red bandage hand guards, Kumovicure shin guards and a black forehead protector along with a Kumovicure flak jacket. The second is a blonde with blue eyes, wearing a very low-cut outfit which displays her sizable cleavage, with mesh armor underneath, a short skirt and red hand guards, high boots, and what appears to be a modified Kumovicure flak jacket that covers her stomach only, similar to a girdle. Wow, Mitsuomi thought. The last was a fiery redhead dressed in a long, short-sleeved dress with frilly edges complete with the Kumovicure flak jacket, 2 simple yellow earrings, fishnet stockings, thigh-high boots with white soles and a forehead protector which she wears like a bandana. The three notice Mitsuomi as he grabs some food and takes a seat. So what's your gimmick, he says. Huh? The redhead shouts, but the blonde grabs her shoulder. Cool it, Carrie, what do you mean, she says. Mitsuomi swallows a piece of dango. Are you like the last 3 sent to get information on a certain kitty, he says. The blonde's eyes narrow as her white-hair teammate furrows his brow. Samui, he says, and goes into a long rant, but Karui slaps him. Shut up, Oma, Karui shouts. Mitsuomi pushes his plate aside and pulls a scroll out of cargo pocket. So again I ask, are you here seeking a certain cat, he asks. Yes, but not for the council, we just want to know she's safe, Samui states. Mitsuomi opens the scroll and channels some chakra. From it appeared 4 familiar masks with 1 more in a medium-sized box. Mitsuomi opens the box with trays of various tools and paints. Do you come at the behest of unruly EI and current Rakage because like the other team you're jonin level, he says, taking another bite of dango. Samui steps forward with a bow. I'm Samui Ni, this is Omoy and Karui, and yes, we've infiltrated the exams to meet you, Kiryu the White Storm, and confirm the letter sent by you. To Rakage-sama, she explains. You must have back issues, Mitsuomi says, not looking up. Samui rubs her shoulder with a slow nod as Karui was getting irritated, but Mitsuomi looks up. How are things in Kumo? Last I remember I was attacked just outside your borders in Frost, he says. What does it matter? Karui snaps. Mitsuomi looks at the redhead with a tilt of his head. Plenty, as I said, I was attacked by a Kumo shinobi, and I defeated said shinobi. I sent a letter stating such but received no reply until now, it seems, so if I ask the state of affairs in Kumo you tell me and I will reciprocate on your request, he explains and starts painting Kuratsuchi's mask. Rakage-sama has managed to wrest control from the council and would like to know if one Yujito-ni is alive, Samui states. Mitsuomi holds the mask in the light with an inquisitive inspection. Yujito-ni is, he starts and pauses, going to need to stop worrying her friends and family, he muses. The tension gripping the 3 Kumo shinobi lessen as Mitsuomi looks at Samui. She's healthy and happy and misses her family, but Kumo is no longer her home, he said. As long as she's safe I'm glad, and can you give her message from us, tell her we miss her, and wish her all the happiness she can get, Samui said, and Mitsuomi nods. The 3 excuse themselves as Mitsuomi goes back to fixing his masks. 3 days later, the genin that survived the Forest of Death were assembled in the main hall as Minato stood above them, with their respective jonin sensei. Anko stood on the railing with her arms folded. Shit's still too many of ya, so we'll have a preliminary round to thin the herd, she shouts. Some genin protest, but Minato explains the true meaning of the exams. Hate appears with a small coughing fit. You will fight one another at random selection, you will fight until incapacitated or I stop you, and the ruling of killing is still effect now. Does anyone wish to drop out before we start, he asks. Samui and her team raise their hands, as does Kabuto, and one Kiri shinobi with a broken arm, causing Kiba to mock the bespectacled shinobi. Alright, let us begin the preliminaries, Hate states. Sasuke vs Yora Canon, Tenten vs Tamari Canon, Kankuro vs Misumi Canon. Music, Fairy Tail Ost Absolute Zero Silver. Kabuto walks through the hall, but leaning on the wall was the Odo Jonin sensei. Orochimaru-sama, it seems they failed and Kin is dead, he says. No matter Kabuto, it seems Mito-chan is more dangerous than her sister, however Sasuke-kun will come to me, Orochimaru says. Kabuto sees the slight anger in his master's eyes. Is something to matter, he says. Orochimaru clenches his fist and a scowl forms. I encountered the true Kyuubi child and it seems I underestimated him. Keep a close eye on him, he says, and slinks into the shadows. Kabuto waited a few moments but suddenly felt a presence, and turns to be seized by the throat and slammed into the wall. A pair of blank eye sockets and a thin smile greet him from a white mask. Loyal dog of the snake, the owner said, their voice distorted. Kabuto was about to speak but the figure kept his grip. When will the invasion happen, the figure hisses. During Gaara's second round match I will cast Nien Shouja no Jutsu. Orochimaru-sama will be in the Kage booth and his 4 gates will attack, Kabuto explains. The figure tightens their grip. What else, they hiss, and Kabuto stifles a groan. Snake summons to crash the northern gate with Oto and Suna force disguised in the arena and outside the walls within 2 days of the finals, Kabuto says. IWA, the figure says. Kabuto looks into the blank eyes. Orochimaru-sama approached Tsuchikage, but he declined, he explains. The figure releases Kabuto with a tilt of their head. Keep up the good work, they say. Kabuto clutches his throat. Yes sir, Orochimaru-sama will have me running surveillance and meeting with Baki, but I feel Konoha will no doubt put a detail on me, B says. See, nothing happens to them or your life is forfeit, the figure said, disappearing into the shadow. Kabuto freezes for a moment in a daze but then left the tower to continue Orochimaru's orders. Song ends. Mito vs Sakura. The two kunoichi make their way to arena floor but Sakura was glaring at the red-hair Uzumaki. Unlike her fiery twin, Mito was like her father with an aloof attitude, but when serious was more dangerous than her blonde sister. Mito knew among her graduating class only she, her sister and Tenten from the previous year were the only serious kunoichi of their generation. Fangirls ran rampant in their generation and by the looks of Sakura and Ino they were the staunchest of them. The pair stood face to face. Hajime Hade shouts. Sakura goes for a few shuriken into a leap and toss but Mito blocks with a kunai. Sakura moves in with own kunai but Mito blocks. Give up, Sakura, I do not wish to harm a fellow Konoha shinobi, Mito comments. Shut up, you kept me from saving Sasuke-kun, and your stupid brother harmed Sasuke-kun too, Sakura shouts, sending a left. Mito grabs Sakura's wrist and tosses her. Then how about that fact that you didn't even try to help me against those Odo shinobi, Mito counters. What? Kushina roars. Sakura flinches from Kushina's shout. It didn't matter, Sasuke-kun would have stopped them, she states. Sakura weaves several signs as she rushes Mito to create 3 bunshin, but Mito's chains dispel the illusions. Mito slams a hard punch to Sakura's gut and doubles her over. You could be strong, Sakura, but you let a boy dictate your life, she says. Shut up. Sakura roars and Mito backpedals to dodge the wild haymaker. Kakashi could only shake his head. Mito is right, if Sakura actually applied herself she could be a great kunoichi, he thought. Mito shoots behind Sakura and chops her on the neck, ending the fight. Winner Mito Namikaze Hade declares. Medic takes Sakura as Mito returns to her team and her twin hugs her. Good job sis, Naruko crows and Mito feels a hand on her head. Mitsuomi ruffles her red hair. A good start for the family, Naruko, and I will keep it going, he says. Ino vs Suzumabachi. Suzumabachi looks over Ino with a disgusted look on her face. Another weakling, she thought. Suzumabachi has shoulder-length brown hair with a single lock falling onto the right side of her face and going over her right eye just a little bit. She has steel-gray eyes with orange markings in the corner and altered, purple kimono dress with red trimmings, a yellow sash around her waist and thigh-length stockings that merged into her sandals. Ino was blowing a kiss to Sasuke and was promptly ignored. The next match is Ino Yamanaka vs Suzumabachi. Kamizuru Hajime Hate shouts. Suzumabachi wastes no time and summons her bees to swarm Ino. Give up or be stung to death, she coldly said, and Ino surrenders. Pathetic, Suzumabachi shot, returning to her teammates. Kuratsuchi, hidden on the stone arms, watches her cousin, but her gaze fell on her father Kitsuchi. Dad, she thought. Pretty harsh, Kitsuchi states. Kitsuchi has dark eyes and short dark gray color hair as well as a beard and a bulbous nose. He wears the standard attire of the IWA nin, consisting of a red uniform with the right sleeve missing and brown Iwagakure flak jacket, with a bandana Hittite. Suzumabachi scoffs and leans on next to her imposing teammate. Konoha's standard for kunoichi have fallen of them all so far. The weapons girl and Namikaze's children are skilled, she remarks. The next match was Choji vs a Kirin named Makoto, and ended with narrow victory by Makoto, who used his sword skills to defeat Choji. Shikamaru went next and defeated his opponent Mato from IWA with shadow possession and a slam of the head to the wall. Shino and Kiba were the next match, both being teammates knew each other. The fight was even in taijutsu, but in the end Shino won using his Kikeichu and Kiba congratulating his teammate. Suzumabachi watches the entire fight with an inquisitive stare. Shino Aburaim, how she thought. Alright, the next match will be Hate states. The screen filters through the names and stopped Mitsuomi and Isra of IWA. How much will you show, Kyuubi asks. Mitsuomi vaults the rail to land with a crouch. Dunno yet, he thought. Isra lands with a thud and was an imposing man of muscle and height surpassing Mitsuomi's 6 foot 2 inches at 6 foot 6 inches. Isra wears the standard IWA attire but had an open vest with spiky black hair and coal-colored eyes. Hate coughs slightly. The next match Mitsuomi versus Isra Hajime, he says. Isra stares at Mitsuomi but scoffs. Again I take these exams and yet another weakling stands before me. I would have preferred to kill one of the Namake's spawns, he says. Kuratsuchi rolls her eyes as Naruko and Mito gasp, but their brother was oddly silent, as were many of the other genin. Oh really, you want to kill one of the Namake's children as what revenge for the third war, Mitsuomi says. Isra scoffs again at Mitsuomi. That Sachikage forbade anyone from it, but these exams allow killing, and we signed the waivers so it's fair game, he says. Mitsuomi cracks his knuckles and neck but Naruko starts laughing. Hey big guy, you just made a huge mistake, she says. Excuse you, Isra says, and Mito points to Menma. You pushed the little sister button, Mito says. Isra turns to a fist buried in his gut, and doubles him over to look Mitsuomi in the eye. You shouldn't have done that, he says, uppercutting him. Isra staggers back but regains his composure into a flurry of punches as Mitsuomi backpedals and dodges. Then I fulfill my wish, Namake's dog, Isra shouts. Mitsuomi leaps forward with a Superman punch. Uzumaki dipshit, he shouts. Yet tell him Sochi nobody mocks, and Uzumaki Kushina shouts. Isra shoots forward a full power left straight but Mitsuomi blocks and skids to halt. Wow, that actually stings, he says, shaking his arm. Isra charges Mitsuomi but the purple eye Uzumaki connects with a punch to Isra's left temple, dropping him to one knee with blurry vision. Curse you, Isra hisses, popping up with wild swings but Mitsuomi counters with several punches. Mitsuomi backpedals as he dodges a wide swing but Isra lunges, grabbing Mitsuomi around the waist and squeezes. Sir Isra roars, tossing Mitsuomi. He slams into the ground with 2 bounces, causing his siblings and mother to wince but more so as Isra shins next to Mitsuomi, and stomps on his face several times with his boot. Isra leans down with a grin on his face but it's wiped off by a right straight to his face, and kick to the right temple. Mitsuomi vanishes and stood opposite Isra with his face shadowed. Thanks for the warm-up, he says, blowing some blood from his nose. Warm up, huh? Then take this Doton. Great mud river, Isra shouts, slamming his hands into ground. The floor under Mitsuomi quickly turns to mud but Isra creates a Doton bunshin that grabs him from behind in a full Nelson. Doton. Mud body technique, the clone said. Mitsuomi's eyes widen as the clone bodies becomes mud and slowly covers his body until his only eyes remain. Sasuke was watching with a sneer on his face, while both his sisters have equal looks of concern. That's it, he's doomed, Kankuro comments but Temari stares. I'm not so sure, Temari thought. Gaara was watching in anticipation of a death but this feeling overtook him. Is a storm coming, he thought. Isra, you stepped into it now, Kuratsuchi thought. Isra approaches the rock prison with a haughty look on his face. Be consumed, my mother earth, and look on from hell as I kill the Namake's spawn, he sneers. Music, One Piece Luffy Moku, hip-hop remix. Suddenly a massive discharge of white lightning erupts and destroys the rock prison. Jaya Isra shouts, being thrown back. Everyone shields their eyes but whiteness dies down, and Mitsuomi stood with his arms flexed inward. How? How did you get free? Isra shouts. Katsuchi stares at Mitsuomi with an impressed look. He's got a right on affinity and a high one, he thought. Mitsuomi spits a bit of dirt and rubs a smudge from his cheek. Don't you know your Doton affinity's weakness, he says, lightning arcing from his body. Isra grits his teeth and sprints forward with a war cry but Mitsuomi dodges his wild swings. I will kill you full, he bellows. Mitsuomi catches Isra's fists into a test strength but he arcs more, before forcing Isra's up and connecting with a front dropkick. Isra skids back but recovers but Mitsuomi summons his trick and closes the gap for a spinning slash. You fool, I am armed with IWA no Yoroi, Isra boasts but his chest erupts with flames, as Mitsuomi connects. Jaya ho hot. Isra wails, patting his chest. How does it feel to be cut and burned? I can channel my Katon affinity through my trick for that neat trick, Mitsuomi says. Sasuke grips the railing with a look of anger. 2 elemental affinities, he thought. Many of the other genin were shocked and even some jonin were as well. Kushina-sama, he has 2 affinities, Kurina asks. Kushina giggles while looking at her son. My Sochi was born with an unusually high right on affinity, and his Katon is from his father but he's just getting started, wait for finals, she says. Kakashi, did you know about this? Asuma asks. Kakashi raises his hatayite with a shake of his head. No, the last time I saw Mitsuomi was 10 years ago, but I know he is trained by Shishio Kiryu, Kushina-sama's student, he replies. Minato's eyes flicker but he shakes himself back. Mitsuomi, he thought. Isra clutches his wound with a growl in his throat and redoubles his IWA no Yoroi. I will not lose to you, dog, he roars. Mitsuomi spins his trick and tosses it up as Isra reaches him but slams a palm strike to his chest, catching his sword and slashing Isra once again with his flame. Jaya Isra howls as he staggers back and collapses to one knee. Isra glares at Mitsuomi with flickering and angered eyes. Inconceivable, he thought, and starts to weave signs but froze mid-sign as a deadly blast of Ki was directed at him. Mitsuomi cuts an imposing figure with his trick resting on his shoulder. In the Tavern Armageddon, the Horizon people were talking of a hunger many years back. I was younger, he says. What was that, some incantation? Isra states, getting to his feet. Mitsuomi's eyes narrow as he methodically stalks toward the frozen still man. Incantation, you dare call my musings that? He says, lightning arcing ever so often. Mitsuomi seems to now tower over Isra as both look each other in the eye. I can't move, it's like my body is rooted in mud. I'll be kill, Isra thought. Spare me, Isra sputters. Mitsuomi leans closer, his purple orbs slitted. Sorry, you greatly befouled my mood by threatening my sister's Kotatsu. Zero Shiki, he says. A flash and a bolt of lightning strikes the wall, as does Isra, falling to his knees with a gaping wound in his chest as Mitsuomi walks away from his corpse. W winner Mitsuomi Korea hate says. Song ends. The entire arena was shocked silent as Mitsuomi walks back up. Even the jonin were silent. Anko has a smirk on her face as Minato was quiet as well. I didn't know he progressed this far, he thought. Kitsuchi glances to Kushina. So he's the son of the red-hot habanero but not the yandame by his snap at his Raf, he thought. Sasuke was seething in rage and clutches his curse mark. Damn him, his power should be mine, he thought. The other genin were too stunned, but his sisters made the first move. Mitsu and I, you gotta teach me that, Naruko says. Nia and I, you're right, and it's so high level, Mito comments. Mitsuomi rubs his hair and fiddles with his white bang. Years of hard work, little sisters, he says. The Mednin remove his Raf's body as the board cycles through names once again. Hinata versus Neji. Hinata stares with wide eyes as Neji glares at him as they make their way to the arena floor. The next match begins, Hate states. Neji spreads his legs apart. You should know one thing, Hinata-sama, you cannot defeat me. Fate has decreed my victory. You're too soft-hearted to defeat me, he says. Hinata look away slightly but shakes his head. I can change Neji and Aizen, he says. Neji shakes his head dismissively. People cannot change, you are a spoiled child of the head family, and you will always be a failure, he declares, and Hinata gasps with wide eyes. Naruko was gripping the bars with a scowl on her face. This guy, she thought. Neji activates his Byakugan with a glare and Hinata flinches with his eyes flickering and tries to look away. You cannot fool my eyes, Neji says and berates Hinata more, goading him to concede. Hinata! You can beat him, you're strong, you helped my big brother kick his ass. Naruko shouts. Hinata stares at his crush and then to Neji, before activating his Byakugan and slipping into his Juken. Words will not help you, Hinata-sama, you will fail, Neji says, slipping into his Juken. The tension slowly started to rise, but Hinata makes the first move into a barrage of blocks and dodges, blue waves of chakra accompanying every strike. Hinata sees an opening but Neji narrowly dodges the palm strike. Did Hinata get him, Naruko asks, and Lee explains the Juken, followed by Guy explaining further. Neji and Hinata slowly circle one another into another rush of attacks, culminating in Hinata going for a finishing blow. However, Neji strikes his chest and right arm before Hinata was in range. Staggering back, Hinata coughs up some blood. Is this all the head family's power, Neji sneers. Hinata pushes Neji's palm and goes for another strike, but Neji blocks and jams 2 fingers in Hinata's arm. Kurenai stares in concern as everyone else was in shock and murmuring. Hinata, it can't be, she thought. Neji rolls up Hinata's sleeve to reveal red welts and the younger gasps. This is? All this time, Hinata says. That's right, I can see you chakra points and disabled each one in your arms, Neji states, and slams a hard strike to Hinata's chest. Hinata flies back and hits the floor hard. Hinata-sama, I am completely out of your league, that will not change, it shows the failures how pathetic they are, Neji coldly said. Hinata tries to rein in his breath as he struggles to his feet. I can do this, Naruko-chan is watching, I can't falter, it's my Nindo, he thought, finally getting to his feet. Hinata activates his Byakugan but his heart seizes for a moment, and he coughs up more blood, causing those close to Hinata to gasp and Naruko to clench the railing. Mitsuomi was watching his sister more than the fight. Go Hinata, you can do it, Naruko shouts. Hinata sprints forward into a furious combo of strikes but Neji parries each one and closes more chakra points. Hinata overextends a strike and Neji make him pay with an upward palm strike to the chin, but Hinata stays vertical, causing Neji to scowl. Hinata takes his stance again and shots forward with his strike ready, but Neji slams a palm in Hinata's chest. Hinata coughs up more blood as Neji pushes him back and Hinata collapses, silencing the genin and jonin. You don't get it, do you? Your attacks were useless from the start, Neji says and turns to leave. Call the match, Proctor, he adds. Hate raises his hand but Hinata struggles to his feet, much to the shock of many but Naruko and Mitsuomi. Neji and I won't quit, I won't run, I'll fight to my last breath, Hinata states. Neji clenches his fists as he Byakugan reemerges and rushes forward, then so be it, he says. Hate moves to intercept but loud crashes halts everyone, its source being Mitsuomi's left forearm embedded in the wall. Oh sorry, I was swatting an arrogant blind fly, Mitsuomi says. Hinata finally collapses but Naruko leaps down to catch him. Hinata, are you alright, she asks. I am alright, Hinata whispers. Neji glares at Hinata as Hate calls the match. Do you see now, Hinata, even the Hokage's daughter favors the head family, he sneers and leaves the arena floor. Neji returns his team but passes Mitsuomi. You got lucky, Hyuga, Mitsuomi says. Luck has nothing with it, fate deemed me the victor, Neji states. Mitsuomi folds his arms with his eyes closed and leans on the wall. No, I meant if you would have struck down Hinata, my sister would have attacked you, and if you harmed her I would kill you in the worst way, he says, and Neji's eyes narrow but continues on. Naruko versus Janae. Naruko stays rooted in place as medics took Hinata away. Your comrade fought valiantly but now we must do battle, Janae states. Janae was a tall young man with white hair held up by his itaite, dressed in a dull blue kimono jacket and black pants. On his hip was a katana. Naruko shook off her cobwebs and slaps her cheeks, before summoning her dado and slipping it into her waistband. Is your skill with Kenjutsu comparable to your brother? And Mother Janae asks, and Naruko slowly nods. I lack experience, but my mom taught me Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu, but my brother could be its true successor, Naruko replies. Janae glances to Mitsuomi, and the purple-eye Uzumaki shrugs his shoulders. Indeed, and I mean no respect, but I prefer to face one such as them, so I forfeit, Janae says. Naruko furrows her brow, but Janae extends his hand. Take the victory, child, I hope you avenge your love, he says, and shins back to the spectators. Naruko walks back up to be greeted by her siblings. Don't get down, Nene, he says. I know, but it sucks I didn't get to show my skills, Naruko says, and Mitsuomi ruffles her blonde hair. Then show them in the finals, Mitsuomi says. Lee vs. Gaara canon, one of the best fights of part 1. The chunin hopeful stood before Minato, Hate and Anko. Alright, this concludes the second round of the chunin exams. Now each of you will step forward and draw a number. If your numbers match, then that is your opponent, Anko explains. Each one steps forward and draws lots, but Anko picks for Gaara. Okay, show them, Anko said, and they showed their numbers. First round matches Shikamaru Nara vs Temari no Sabaku, Naruko Namikaze vs Neji Hyuga, Mito Namikaze vs Kankuro no Sabaku, Gaara no Sabaku vs Makoto Shino Aburame vs Suzumabachi. Kamizuru, and Anko states but stops. Sasuke was holding up his number with a smug look to Mitsuomi, causing the Konoha genin to gasp. Mendokusei those two. Round 1, Shikamaru comments. Mitsuomi pockets his hands with a smirk. I look forward to it, he says. Minato clears his throat to get their attention. Alright, you have 1 month to prepare for your respective opponents. All foreign ninja are allowed to remain in Konoha for the duration, but you will have Umbu guards now dismissed, he says, and disappears in a yellow flash. Mitsuomi grasps his sisters by the shoulder and vanish in a flash of lightning, appearing outside the gates to the forest. I can't believe you got Sasuke, Naruko comments. Mito slowly nods but glances to her sister. And you Neji, she says, and Naruko furrows her brow. Neji team is gonna get it, Naruko shot. I hope Hinata will be okay, Mito comments, as they head back into the village. Naruko clenches her fist but remembers what Janae said. Wait, that Janae guy said to avenge my love, she says, and Mito giggles. Mitsuomi rubs his forehead with a sigh. You know Nara Hinata would have forfeited if you hadn't shouted, he says. Naruko halts in her tracks with a furrowed brow. I wanted to encourage him, she says, and both her siblings sigh. Nene, do you know Hinata watches you sometimes, Mito says. So Naruko replies, and Mitsuomi smacks his forehead, dragging it down his face. Hinata likes you, my oh so dense little sister, Mitsuomi says. Naruko stood motionless for a few seconds. What? She shouts. Nene, it's true Hinata likes you, but he's too shy to tell you, and you're like mom when it comes to love, Mito comments, and Naruko puffs her cheeks. Mitsuomi pats Naruko on the head. We'll go see him later, but for now let's focus on the finals, he says. Neji is a close-range fighter, as you saw in his Byakugan, can see your chakra points and close them with his Juken, so you'll need to avoid that at all costs, but if it happens, use your Kyubi chakra to force them open, Mitsuomi adds. Naruko slowly nods as they continue on. He'll be tough, but I'll show him fate doesn't dictate one's life, she says. Well spoken, I'll ask Yujito to help you because she's a close-range fighter, and maybe Hinata can help you too, Mitsuomi says, and Naruko blushes. What about my opponent Nianai, Mito asks, and Mitsuomi rubs his chin. Well, he's a puppet user and didn't show much in his fight, but I bet he specializes in poison too, so focus on that. Talk to Granny Tsunade and Conan about it, even Anko and Shizen can help, Mitsuomi explains, and Mito nods. What about you, Mitsu and I? Sasuke will do everything to beat you, Naruko says. Mitsuomi sparks up a grape flavor cigarette. This I know, and it makes my training harder because I bet Sasuke will have people spying on my training to give him any edge, Mitsuomi says, but holds a finger. However, I can beat him without training in public, so I'll focus on Gaara, he adds. Why Gaara, Mito asks, and Mitsuomi felt bad lying to his sisters. Well, judging by his fight with Lee, he's pretty bloodthirsty, and based on the brackets, the winner of my fight faces him, Mitsuomi replies, and both shudder. I know Lee-san was hurt pretty badly, Mito states. Well, I promised to give Gaara what for, Mitsuomi states. Mito stares at her brother in awe, as did her twin, but for Mito it was more so. The three siblings continue on, but Mitsuomi senses something. Hey, I'll catch up to you two, he says, and shins off, leaving his confused sisters. Mitsuomi appears back at the gate for the Forest of Death and leaps over. For no 5 in total, he thought, landing in the first clearing he found. 3 chunin land in front of Mitsuomi, and he recognizes one as Mizuki. The other 2 are circling around to your back. It's the 2 from the other day, Kyubi says. Is there something wrong, Mitsuomi asks. Mizuki steps forward with a sneer on his face. Yeah, demon, you're gonna forfeit your match with Sasuke-sama, he shot. Mitsuomi stealthily rolls his eyes. What did he already shout it from the rooftops, he says. Seina and Meiko drop down behind Mitsuomi, and both have been roughed up. Demons like you should be in a cage. Sasuke-sama has no need to face you, Seina hissed. Mitsuomi ruffles his mismatched locks with a shake of his head. Shut up, demon, it's time we finish what happened 10 years ago, and rid Konoha of you, Mizuki shouts, drawing a Fuma shuriken. Mitsuomi's bangs shadow his eyes, but out the corner of his eye spies a tan trench coat in the trees, and a smirk forms. 10 years, it's just 2 little words, Mitsuomi says, and slowly makes a fist. However, it's enough for some to become pathetic, he said. Give the people a chance, and they'll change, he adds. The clearing becomes eerily quiet as Mitsuomi leaks his Ki and Shinsaku activates. But for me it's enough to become powerful, he says. One of the chunin wails in pain as Mitsuomi's fist was drilled into his gut, dropping him to his knees and face down. The second chunin charges Mitsuomi, but the purple-eye Uzumaki slams a spinning roundhouse, sending the chunin into a tree. I never saw him move, Sana and Mako thought. Mizuki releases a battle cry as he flings the Fuma shuriken. Take this, demon, he shouts. Time seems to slow as the shuriken careens towards Mitsuomi, but he dodges at a hair's breadth and catches the shuriken, sending it back at Mizuki, but he goes prone to avoid. Mizuki pops up only for Mitsuomi to send a big boot into the gut, doubling Mizuki over and allowing Mitsuomi to powerbomb him into the ground. Sana and Mako stood with shocked eyes, but Sana shakes out of it into a furious weave of signs. However, Sana jerks as a boot was inches from his face, striking him in the face with a crack. Right-on. Byakurai, Mitsuomi says, sending a bolt of pale lightning through Mako's shoulder. Mako wails in agony as he collapses, but Mitsuomi drives boot into his face to silence him. Anko drops from the trees as Mitsuomi dispels his shinsaku. That looks like the right-on no yoroi, she asks. Mitsuomi surveys the damage, but shakes his head. In a way, but this is called shinsaku and I created it. It allows me to surpass my physical limitation for 5 minutes, he explains, but Kyubi huffs. Actually, I can keep it up in combat for 4 minutes and 15 seconds, he corrects. How'd you catch that shuriken? You had your back to Mizuki, Anko asks. Mitsuomi gives Anko a cheeky smile. Well, with shinsaku activated, it creates a field around me capable of sending electrical impulses straight to any part of the body I need to use, allowing greater reaction and speed, he explains. Anko whistles with an impressed look. The council must be desperate to spare their precious Uchiha the ass whooping he so rightly deserves, but how are you gonna train, she asks. You do know about gravity and resistance seals, right? Mitsuomi says, and Anko nods. Well, I'm using both right now, so even if I can't outright train, I'm training even by doing the most mundane things, he adds. Anko punches his arm and sends a chakra burst. You better go, Umbu will pick up the trash, she says, and Mitsuomi pecks her lips, before vanishing with a rumble of thunder. Mito and Naruko arrive at home and the pair get cleaned up and agree to go visit Hinata and Lee another time. Mito plops on her bed as her twin was downstairs making some food for them. Naruko opens the door and found her twin deep in thought. Thinking about your match, she asks, giving Mito a cup of ramen. A little, Mito muses. So will you tell Hinata you like him at least a little bit, Mito asks. Naruko blushes and nearly chokes on her ramen, causing Mito giggle softly. Well, just take it slow or Hinata will pass out, Mito says and heads downstairs. Mitsuomi opens the door and happens upon Mito. Hey little sis, he says. Hey Nianai, Mito says, heading to the family study. Mito grabs a book about water manipulation from the shelf and takes a seat. Where'd you get a book like that, a voice asks. Mito glances up and sees Mitsuomi standing in the doorway. Bachan gave us this book, she says. Mitsuomi grabs his own book off the shelf. Nianai, when did you know you were in love, Mito asks. Mitsuomi furrows his brow as he takes a seat. What brought this on, he asks. I'm just curious about it since, well, Nene, Mito states. Mitsuomi runs his fingers under his nose and lower lip in thought. Well, he starts but pauses and thought more. With Anko we were childhood friends and one of the first people to see me, and not my furry friend. She had a hard life too, for something not of her making, for Yujito as well. We're both enemies. To start, the Council of Kumo sent her after me for killing their meal ticket Orm the Bolt. After the fight she fully expected to die, but I removed the seals and extended my hand to help her with a better life. Slowly but surely we fell in love despite our mutual tenets. Kuratsuchi was a gradual thing too, being around each other a lot and falling for one another, Mitsuomi explains. Mito sits with rapt attention as a soft look forms on her brother's face. Conan she was and is the calm to the storm. That is me. When we met I was still coming to terms with a lot of things, and even though we just met she knew what to say to calm me down, Mitsuomi muses. Wow, think mom and dad were like that, Mito asks, and Mitsuomi slowly nods. Mitsuomi closes his book and puts it back on the shelf. Don't worry Mito, you'll catch up to Neri, he says, kissing her forehead and patting her head. Next day, Mito and Mitsuomi follow behind Naruko as they arrive at Konoha General, and the blonde holding a bouquet of flowers. You didn't have to come, she says. Mitsuomi puts out his cigarette with a snort. No way, we're missing this, he says, and Mito nods. The trio speaks with the receptionist for Hinata and Lee's rooms. I'll go see Lee since Guy-sensei will be there, Mito says, and excuses herself. I'll give you details, Mitsuomi says. Naruko shudders at the thought of Guy and his shouts of youth and hotness. You know mom had to beat him when he suggested the jumpsuits, she says. The pair reach the room and politely knock on the door. Come in, a soft voice says. Naruko slides open the door as Hinata turns to them. On the other side in a wheelchair was an older woman. The woman has fair skin and long, dark purple hair slightly past her waist, and side bangs framing her face down to her shoulders. She was wearing a purple, long-sleeve kimono and knitting items in her lap. Hello, Aunt Hitomi, Mitsuomi greets. Hitomi softly smiles and wheels around to them as Naruko places the flowers on the table. Kushina did tell me you returned, she says, and hugs Mitsuomi. Are these for me, Naruko-chan? Hinata asks, and Naruko nods. Yeah, Naruko starts and pink tints her cheeks. Hitomi notices this and glances to Mitsuomi and he nods. Era, Mitsuomi-kun, can you wheel me to the nurse's station, she says, and both step out. Hinata was staring at his crush as she fiddles with her hands. I heard you're facing Neji and Isen, he says. Yeah, and I'm gonna beat him too, Naruko says, but looks slightly away. Mitsu and I and Mitone seem to think that you have a crush on me, she says. Hinata's eyes widen and start to flicker. He stammers, his face pink. Well, do you? Naruko asks, and Hinata take a deep breath. Yes, I do, Hinata replies, and Naruko's eyes widen. I've admired you for a long time, you're so strong and courageous, you never give up. I would always cry and give up, but you inspired me to change so I can walk beside you and not have to chase after you, Hinata says, but Naruko silences him and takes his hand. Hinata, Naruko whispers and kisses his forehead. Thank you, she adds. Outside, Hitomi wipes a few tears as Mitsuomi softly smiles. Well done, little sister, he thought. To be continued. What if Uzumaki clan destroys Konoha chunin exams? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.